Knock knock.
Who's there?
Owls.
Owls who?
That's right. Owls who?
And welcome, everybody, back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast, where today we are covering Legend of the Guardians, or the Owls of Ga'Hoole, or there's a bunch of different names, actually.
Oh, you got
which
it.
is part of
Nice
fun.
job.
Yeah. Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. Yeah. With me today is, hello, me, I'm a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening from Ga'Hoole, lucky you, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Blueski. I love calling it Blueski. We're also on Instagram, or I already said Instagram. We're also on LetterBoxd if you're interested in our ever out graphs and numbers of whatever's we're covering. And if you're listening on audio, hey, did you know we have visual side of things on YouTube and Rumble? Pretty neat. We got PNG tubers and like a slideshow. Hey, are you watching on audio but you're driving? Hey, that's not safe. You can listen to us on audio on a lot of podcast audio formats. Pretty cool.
Wow.
Wow, what's the ringer today? Yeah, so let's do our histories first, shall we? For Legend of the Guardians of Owls of Ga'Hoole. I'm just gonna call it Legend of the Guardians or the Owls of Ga'Hoole.
They just call it
Let's
Guardians
stick
of
to one.
Ga'Hoole.
Yeah, Guardians of Ga'Hoole. Let's go with that. So let's start with histories. Springs.
Sweet. I don't know if I ever knew the full title of this movie, and I've always been calling it Guardians of Ga'Hoole. That is part of my history. It's for the longest time. My first introduction to this, eventually knew it was a book, but when I saw the previews for this, never knew that. This was something I would watch while trying to watch SpongeBob on Nickelodeon, and like the trailer for this movie would come up, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, owls. And then like a Burger King trailer would come up where it's showing the toys for the movie. That's probably what I've seen so many freaking times is like a toy commercial. Never seen the movie until now for the podcast, and all I knew was there's owls, and it's somewhat of a fantasy. That's it.
Yeah, not bad. Crimson.
Copy paste Sprinks.
Oh, you
for
watch
the most
SpongeBob?
part. I did watch SpongeBob as a kid. I did. But yeah, I pretty much only know the movie through commercials and trailers. And I did know it was a book series, and I knew it was about owls. Yeah, I mean, the very basic stuff. I never saw it except for the podcast, first time viewing. And that's it.
I guess another history for
Nice.
me, being that I only saw the trailers on Nickelodeon, I guess that was all I was watching. I thought this was like a Nickelodeon distributed movie until
Don't
I
blame
learned
me
that
with
it
the
wasn't, but I
visuals.
thought it was.
Nice. Copy and paste. Oh wait. I never watched SpongeBob, and I never will.
Never
Uh,
will.
yeah, never
Skull
will.
Whitward.
I know. No, I've seen these. Anyway, so yeah, this is my second time seeing the film because I actually did see the film in theaters. But like you guys, I was oversaturated with the advertisements of the film. I always remember the one joke about being halfway there because that was like all over the marketing and almost every trailer.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that joke was played to death for me. But this was my second time seeing it for the film. I barely remember it. So it may as well have been a first time for the podcast. But yeah, this is my second time technically for the podcast. And with that, gentlemen, we can go into facts unless you have any additional notes you'd like to add on.
No, I'm just slightly craving like a
No.
Burger King Whopper because I'm just remembering like that commercial.
Ooh, you know what? Maybe we should do some Burger King after the podcast. um, so this movie was a joint international film for the United States and Australia. It is 90 has a runtime of 97 minutes with a budget of about 80 million and a box office of about 140 million. So didn't do that well. Um, and I guess I'll go into more fun facts. Uh, the movie is set in Australia, while the books are set in North America. And
Oh,
some of the owl, yeah, yeah, some of the owl species featured are not found in Australia. Uh,
hey, hold on. This is set in on Earth.
uh, yes, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss that, I guess, when we get there. Maybe Gahul is Australia, and then like the Dark Times are like a different island. I don't know. Uh, I would also like to say that all these facts are found on the internet, so take with them with a grain of salt. Because the reason I brought that fact up is because it's the most insane sounding of all the facts. Um, the animators went to an owl sanctuary to learn how to properly depict owls in flight and the ruffling of their feathers, as well as owl behavior and their dietary needs.
Oh, very good.
Good job.
Research is always good.
Yeah, they're doing their homework. Uh, this movie was in production for more than 3 years with a staff in excess of 500.
Okay.
For an animated movie, that is quite a bit.
Mhm.
uh, this movie is Zack Snyder's first non R-rated movie.
This is a
If you could,
Snyder film?
you
Yeah.
couldn't tell with the slow
I guess now you pointed out.
mo.
There was a bit of slow-mo.
A bit, yeah. There's a. I'm happy he was a little more reserved for this one, I guess, in terms of slow mo. But once the action kicks in, you see the director's colors truly shine, I guess. Uh, and this movie is based off the first three books of the series: The Capture, The Journey, and The Rescue.
How many books are there?
Uh, Good question. No idea.
Oh,
20.
asked writer the book question. Oops.
Yeah. I know,
Has
right?
anyone read any of these books?
No, I
No.
haven't. I was under
I have seen the books, but I have not
someone.
read any of them.
Who was I? I was talking to someone who thought this was connected to the Warrior books.
That was Sinister, I
That was
think.
Sinister in a conversation. Okay,
Yeah, that was Sinister.
that off-pod side conversation that was Sinister. The discussion of this movie that it was connected to Warriors. Yeah,
Never looked
and
into
I have
that.
I haven't read those either.
Yeah. To answer your question, there are 16 books.
16?
Yes.
Could you not tell by the end of this movie they were setting up more?
I could tell that, but I could not tell this movie was 3 books in one.
Warriors has
Uh,
a lot more than 16, though. That's
They seem to be they seem to be pretty small books though. Like they're a kids book series, which makes some sense.
Okay. Huh. Well, that really helps, I guess when we get to my rating at the end, something I have about this.
Yeah, gotta go into your
Let's
what's
just
it called adaptation
let's
stuff.
just say I have a pitch.
Ooh, a pitch. Uh, and with that, gentlemen, does anyone have any facts to contribute, or are we ready to begin our coverage?
I
uh,
asked, uh, a friend of the pod who's been on, Biomon. He has a history with owls, and I asked him if he's ever seen this movie, or anything about it. He just knew there was owls in it, and he's never seen it. So I don't really have much to feed or to come back with on that. But I did reach out to ask him.
Cool.
I guess on the topic of owls, to add to my history section, I did dissect owl pellets in 5th grade. So
Funny enough, I did the same thing. Dissecting owl pellets is kind of a beginner's science thing, so it doesn't
I
surprise me that you did that.
don't know if I did.
pretty fun.
Definitely interesting.
I've
And
dissected
with
a
that,
lot, but I don't know owl
yeah,
pellets.
uh, our coverage today will be popcorn, where we will jump from anywhere in the movie. You can go from right to the end climax, or you can jump right into the middle, wherever you guys want.
Ooh, wonderful.
And we are going to start with Crimson.
Gosh, I just love starting any podcast with
Do you have
popcorn
a
because I can
bazillion
just go
questions for this one
anywhere.
too?
I don't have that many notes for this one actually. Probably one of my lowest on our 120 or whatever we're at now on the
This is
podcast. 20
124.
plus. Yeah,
I, I,
120
for- I forgot to ask how
plus.
you slept last night, Crimson. Are you okay?
He
I'm good.
slept like an
Good. I'm fine.
owl.
But
Yeah.
okay,
Uh,
fine.
what I'll go to. I will go with the animation. Why not? I'll start with a broad stroke. What something I didn't state in my history because I figured it'd be better just in the coverage is the animation put me off of this movie. And the trailers I didn't think looked nice. I thought the faces looked weird, especially the main character. His name started with an S,
Soren.
like
Soren.
Soren, because he's soaring like a bird. Um,
They're very clever writers, as you can
Great
tell.
Disney ride.
yeah. Uh, so the animation put me off as a kid, and as an adult, it still stands true. At least with some of them. Some are more tolerable to me than others. And I'm curious if either of you ever got that off-put feeling with the animation in this, or if it's just a me thing.
When it comes to being off put, no. Never got that. I do, however, think the animation of the owls and characters in this movie is better animated than the world around them. I think there's more detail in them. Like
Fair
especially
enough.
like Metal Beak's whatever cavern or cave thing. The stone is very just sheet kind of look, not very detailed or light reflected when they're like walking around. But the owls with their feathering and lighting, and I think I think that could be the off putish. Like they stand out far more than the background they're set in.
That would probably be what I boil it down to as well. I think the characters are extremely well animated and highly detailed, but compared to the background around them, it's like they spent their they spent their budget on the character design, not the set design. Is kind of what it feels like, and in this case, the background animation, which might contribute to that feeling. I think there are times, and they're very rare, when the background does look highly detailed and the characters look less detailed. But those moments are much rarer.
Oh, like the water spin and the typhoon. There's not exactly
Yeah,
really a background that to be there.
yeah. But obviously, I think in that instance, the background, quote unquote, of the water and the typhoon, I think is better detailed than the character is.
Possibly, yeah.
Uh,
That
and I'm
answer your
assuming,
question, Crimson?
yeah,
Yeah.
so fair enough. Springs, why don't you go next?
Oh boy, this movie kicked. Well, you know what? This is popcorn, right?
Yeah, go
Let's
ahead.
go to who I think possibly might be my least favorite character in the whole movie.
Kludd.
Whoa. Any guesses?
Kludd.
Clud.
Ooh, both good guesses. No, it would be Noctis or Da, the dad. I think he's terrible. There are so
Okay, well,
many points to him I don't understand, and I think he's a terrible father for that. So let's go down my list.
Bold claims. Going to need some evidence.
Let's go
Yeah,
down my
yes,
list.
yeah.
please.
First, he teaches the story of what's actually happened within his lifetime of war to be nothing but a fabled story. So I don't know if that's to protect his children of like keeping them away, trying to make it like mythological or you
See,
know,
that's the funny thing, right? I attributed that more to a oh, what is it called? Um,
because it's not just made up. That's
a
real
world
history.
building problem than a character problem. But it's definitely possible that it is just a Noctis problem.
Okay. Follow up. Next thing. I think he's providing food for his family with a mouse, but he only brings one mouse and doesn't go up to hunt more.
That
Um,
could have been the last mouse.
could have been.
Not enough evidence.
Um, him training on the branch with Soren and Kludd. he seems very more towards Soren in talking than with both of them. Like, I don't know why his head's focused on Soren. I guess that's to give more motivation to Kludd's character for his reasonings, but it just seemed very focused on one than both when they're both struggling. Um, the sister being kidnapped later, uh, I first went like, oh, the parents were beaten up or something. Like, that's how they got the daughter. But then it shows at the end when they're there, there's no scars whatsoever. So there's that. He doesn't protect the daughter more after his two sons have been kidnapped. He doesn't go looking for his kids. He doesn't. He thinks Gahul, I guess, is fake, even though he knows the stories which he's trying to hide from his kids. So he doesn't go to Gahul asking for help over a situation. Otherwise, he would meet Soren there and probably beat Soren if he went directly from the tree. Um, yeah, I just don't. I'm confused on his care for his children at all.
I
Uh,
don't know how you got all that. Um, was there a line saying he didn't hunt for his kid? Was there a line saying that he just let his son kidnap the sister? Maybe they were out hunting for food. Maybe they were out hunting for the the brothers and left the snake to babysit the sister, and the snake got taken, and then he took the sister. There's a lot of inferring you're making based off of nothing,
The snake,
to frame him as a bad guy.
unless the timing is changed in world, Mrs. P was taken from Twilight
First,
before to show yeah first. So Mrs. P wouldn't have been with the sister, who I forget her name. It's a
if the parents left
Eglantine.
first, if the parents left the snake with the sister, they wouldn't have known the snake was missing either.
Okay, so
Because
okay,
she's the nanny.
then
That's her job.
there's just a
She's
time thing of Mrs. P being taken by Twilight and Eglantine being left on her own and being kidnapped by
and
her
then
own
being
without the
kidnapped
parents being
by her brother.
connected.
That all makes sense to me that they would be out looking for their sons and leaving the nanny with the other one.
I don't,
That seems very, very plausible, opposed to what you're
it's
saying, where they
possible.
just are neglectful and don't do anything. I mean,
I
they
don't know.
fly to Ga'Hoole at the end
They
for this
do. They
grand
know,
party, and
and they're totally fine. They're not scarred or injured, which means there was no scuffle when Kludd came to kidnap. They seem
Mhm.
happy. They don't seem to care about what happened to Kludd.
or I mean, at that part of the movie, we don't know if they've been told that he's dead, or we don't really know anything what they know what happened yet.
I just know.
It's a
I
lot of assuming from what I'm hearing
I didn't like
instead
him
of what's
because,
actually in the movie.
well, what they give in the movie is that he's a prominent father figure at the beginning, and he's around his kids, and then he gets sidelined and like not thought, maybe because it's like, oh, this is Soren's story and not his story. But I feel like a father in a situation would be looking for his kids or something, or connect to other owls and not be so dissociated with the guardians, or
I don't
um
get why you're assuming he didn't go.
because when they get to Gahul, there should have been word of like, oh, your father's looking for you, or we receive message. He
They
doesn't
don't
have
even
to
know
be
who these
precious,
kids are. Why would they know who the dad is?
because word would have gotten
It's
around
not
to
like
Gahul.
they're in an island across an ocean. What do you mean word would get around?
There's operative missions, and Alumir sends owls around to get where they go around. They're not like, we're in Gahul, we're only staying in Gahul, it's safe here. Like a invisible barrier wall.
And they scout every tree for every family. I'm being honest, because it feels like you're really stretching to try to frame him as a bad guy here.
I'm putting him as neglectful. I don't know. I don't know if it goes into the writing that he needed to have more, or something should have been worded. I just think he got really sidelined and put in the back, even though it's shown a good amount of him at the beginning, and then he's missing the entire movie until the end. Where at the end it's like, okay, maybe he's never been to Gahul and it's a time jump, and someone like helped get him there because he's never been to meet with them, because when they land they're already there when Soren and Gilfie get to Ga'Hoole after the war, his parents are already present. Um, so I guess that could be lined up. That I don't know, but I just don't. I really don't like him being put back, and by that there's nothing given gives me the implication that he didn't do anything.
What about the
So
mom?
from
Same. I'll go with the mom. I just go with the dad because the dad had more shown of character between Soren and Kludd, and I guess a little of Eglantine, but more with his two sons, with the whole
uh,
branching flight scene.
so I've been listening. I think this is a lot of inference. However, the parts of me that I'm picking up on that aren't inference, I think, would be attributed to the world building. Like, if that is stuff that happened in his lifetime, I think there's a line that the war was over like 100 years ago, so there's a chance that he wasn't. Like but I get what you're saying with that, because that to me is a world building issue that ties into his character, which is a problem because it does damage both. That he's espousing all this history of Ga'Hoole as if it were mythology without telling like the truth of it if he had been alive. Which makes it interesting for him as far as the history of the world is concerned. I don't know what my full read of that is beyond that.
Is it supposed to be a protection thing?
It could be.
Like, oh, you can't
Um,
meet your hero because they're not real. It's a made up story. Versus, oh,
well,
they're out there
from
somewhere.
from what I understand, in the brief moment we have in the opening, one of the few things I actually did like about the opening is that it kind of comes across to me they're more of an oral history culture, which was kind of a fun idea to play around with because they refer to they have a seven the as far as we understand the owls have a 700 years of worth of documented history. Um, at least the throwaway line. Um, that being said, um, I I don't think it's you don't have an issue with shouldn't with Noctis. I think you have an issue with the way the writing simply sidelined him as a character. Because all that I think I would agree with. I would prefer to have some bits of him in the film. Funny enough, I don't necessarily need a full on Aristocats story with the no, it's not Aristocats. It's 101 Dalmatians. The parents go out and try to find their kids. I don't need a full on like for that, but I think flushing out his character would only be beneficial with what limited we have because I do get the takeaway that he's just oh he's here now. Why? I thought it was a mythology. Like we don't get any answers with regards to who
We
who
don't get
he is as a
Soren
character.
being like, wow, my dad lied to me. We just get Soren being like, wow, it's real. And moving on.
Yeah, like we don't get any acknowledgement of the characters or their perspective outside of, oh man, our kids are not hatchlings anymore. And hey, you can't, do you know our 7 years of history when he's talking to Cludd just like and about while he's ranting on about the story of the Guardians and stuff like that. So I get I guess the possibility and inferences, but I think we're doing too much work for the writers in that instance because the writers just didn't do anything for the parents.
Yeah, mm, I think it would have helped me if when they get to Ga'Hoole, we can see the parents are beat up. That way
Beat
it's like,
up
oh, wow, they protected.
a throwaway line like we searched everywhere, anything would have been
Yeah.
helpful. But yeah, it's just all we're here now. It's very weird the wrap up of this film. Uh, so
I
yeah,
mean, if they
I
were
guess that's my take on
gone
what you said.
hunting at night and their two sons got kidnapped while in the eyes of Mrs. P, I don't think they'd go back out to search and keep their one child they have currently with Mrs. P again, who in their eyes would have already failed. I think they would have kept one to watch over their daughter.
We don't know the circumstances of how Mrs. P got kidnapped. Mrs. P could have gotten kidnapped going home, because I don't think Mrs. P lives with them.
Could be. Yeah.
So there's other circumstances that go into that. So I get what you're saying. I don't think there's enough to reasonably infer all of that. But like I said, the solid stuff for me and what you said is definitely the world building stuff because that's just a big question mark of fusion. based on what little we have.
And I guess my last piece on the father thing, um, is the fabrication of the story of the Guardians. Is it's not he's not a guardian. The dad is not a guardian. There's nothing stating he's a guardian. So he gets the story from someone else. He wasn't at any of the battles. He doesn't know anything. So it could just be a story someone told him. I mean, I don't get why it's seen as a malicious intent or coddling the kids by saying it as fiction because he doesn't know if it's real.
Just seems weird to me.
I definitely agree the character's portrayal is weird. I didn't appreciate the fact that he was essentially written out of the story. Uh,
Same.
I would
Yeah.
much rather have a couple throwaway lines just to explain what he's done, what's been going on, and stuff like that.
I'm slightly also
Uh,
confused, and it's got to be a background thing, or I didn't know if there was a fact you found, Reddit, or anything, but why Hugo Weaving voices both Noctis and Grimble?
I
It
couldn't tell you.
being a first time, I really thought that was giving away that like they're siblings, like they're related. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. Nothing at all.
I mean, Hugo Weaving is a great actor, but just you know,
Yeah,
I
but
guess it's strange that they had him voice the dad, and then had him
the
voice
war
another
hero.
mentor figure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just found that odd, and I'm like, oh, that could, because then it got me inspired. I'm like, oh, is he fabricating the story because it's like a related thing that he doesn't want in his new family life, like getting away from all that, and he's kind of like he doesn't want to lie to the kids, but he's like changing the story kind of thing and making it more playful and fun. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and no, none of that. So there's got to be some reason that I don't know of.
um, I will jump to. I kind of touched a little bit on it. You get a quick. One of the better things about this opening scene is that you get an interest into the family dynamic. I'm not sure I agree with Springs fully on the. It's heavily towards Soren because the flying scene starts with him teaching Kludd, not Soren. So I feel like they did a good job spreading in between both. Though obviously they focus more on Soren for like when interacting with their Eglantine, their sister, and stuff like that. Um, but I think they get a good sense of the dynamic here early on, which I appreciated. Um, and honestly, Hugh Weaving is just a great voice actor and a great actor in general. So it's just wonderful to hear him.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I'm keeping my opening bit here simple. So Crimson.
um, well, I guess I'll just continue off the point you made. I do think they established the dynamics well enough for well, to set up the groundwork for what's going ahead with the conflict between the brothers. I think it is heightened uh, by Kludd. I think Kludd takes quite a leap, but I
Yeah,
could see the groundwork they're attempting
Clud makes a
here.
mountain out of molehill.
Yes, yes, he does, and he climbs that mountain very eagerly. Um, but I see that they at least laid some groundwork with his little resentment towards his brother being better than
a
him,
better flyer. Yeah, I think it would
and
be
potentially his father liking his Soren more potentially just based off because the father I think likes them both equally, but to um, what's his name again? I just said it. Uh,
Flood.
Cludd. Sorry, it's just a weird name. Cludd. His dad saying "good job" would be enough for him to be like, "Ah, he likes him more." So I could see what they're going for.
Yeah,
So,
it's a rocky setup, but I appreciate their attempt at it for especially what's going to happen.
yeah, I guess my bump in the road in the beginning with their dynamics is when Soren saves Cludd at the bottom, and Cludd was about to leave him to die. At that point, I felt a little extreme with the dynamic we have established between them. because at this point it doesn't have the exterior um, forces pushing him in a certain direction, being the bad guys.
Yeah, and then I don't think there was enough to ferment like true resentment beforehand either, because it came across as sibling annoyance, not like, oh, I'm just gonna leave you to die.
Yeah.
You know, I've been annoyed by my siblings before, but I don't believe I've ever left any of them to die.
Have you been in scenarios where that would need to happen? So let's hope not.
Yeah. Springs.
I thought the word daymares was pretty cute. It's a nice add-in.
Uh, oh yeah. For telling eglantine scary stories.
Yeah.
I don't know
Also,
about that.
for a movie
Sorry.
that for owls being nocturnal, and they kind of establish it right there, like, oh, sun's rising, time to go to bed, and daymares, and I went, okay, the night shots are really highly lit from the moonlight, and then there's a lot of travel that's through the day, and then when it comes to become like night, they're not exhausted. I found that a little odd.
Yeah, I guess all we don't know how long it took for them on this journey, but
Yeah, but
I
anything
see
during the
the point you're
day
making.
would be them traveling all night long.
Yeah, and then their most of their complaints is like what's her face being wounded and stuff like that. Well, I can see that.
There is a rest time when they're in the tree, I guess, traveling, and
It
Digger
looks like
and
sunset or sunrise.
yeah, and like Twigs or not, Twilight is like strumming a song and then starts yelling, like singing. Two of them are napping.
Mhm.
Oh, the singing song.
Yeah, but that's about it.
Yeah,
I
I think
suppose
it's
so.
the only
Yeah.
instance of this showing them resting.
Yeah,
Um,
Yes.
but we don't have a let's find a place to rest for the day.
No,
uh,
they don't really focus on the journey all that much.
it's very much
It plays
going
into my pitch.
very much going into the destination. Uh, get to the destination. Um, I will jump to. Uh, I guess they're Grizzle, their mentor that teaches them to fly.
Grimble. That it?
Grimble. Yeah. The timing for this was very weird. It felt like they had like only like a couple hours together.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I felt that was rushed as well.
Yeah, it's very that to me that whole teaching sequence because of and Kludd also learning not only how to fly but also like compete and pursue somebody. It all came across like that was within a day, which bugs me because they both needed more time to
I
get better at what
agree.
they were doing.
Hmm.
Did feel a bit
Like
rushed. It also
with
feel
Clud. Sorry.
I was gonna say Grimble's like hideout or whatever is very public to be a traitor.
Um, yes, I
Like when the
think
Queen and Cludd come to like spot them, they're just in his study.
yeah. And what makes that scene even worse is that Gyla and Soren are facing the direction where they would be able to see all the other owls come into the room.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Not a good hiding spot. 'Cause
I'm.
they knew where to look for him.
I guess it would go into my pitch, but I don't think I'm the biggest fan that there's a traitor on both sides.
Um, I don't know if it bothers me all that much that being a traitor on both sides. That happens all the time in war, or setup in this case. What bothers me is that Grizz, you said his name. What is it?
Grimble.
Grizzle, Grimble. It bothers me that Grimble is so certain that the Guardians are real, and all he does is work for the bad guys, pretty much, that we know of. When he's been working for them ever since.
That's
Um,
true. Since
the
being taken in.
implication. yeah, the implication for me is that Grimble was that's like his office, so he wasn't trying to hide, which I took it as worse. Because if it's the reason I took it as office is because he's got like books and materials lying around
Yeah,
for himself.
that's why I worded it as public. Like it's not a hidden
Yeah,
place. Like they didn't dive off the end and get somewhere
yeah,
in like a little alcove.
yeah. It came across to me that it's his office because that's he's the one that's in charge of that section of Owlets and getting them into the labor part of picking apart pallets and stuff like that. So it makes sense that it's not that the queen was trying to find him. They just went to his office because he's in charge of that area to just say, "Hey, where did you put this owl?" You know. And then they just happened to catch him red-handed because he was dumb and did it in his office, which is what that scene came across to me as.
Yeah, it was dumb of him. Agree with that. And the mythology of the Guardians, which we kind of touched on with the dad's storytelling aspect, is it's kind of the thing that comes to mind with me is like Narnia, where the second movie, time has passed and they've kind of fallen into legend. And I feel like that's what's happening here. But we have living members from when they were prominent in the wars. So there's still people alive.
The
It's not a
fact
huge time jump
the
or
fact that
anything.
Lies of Keel is still living really gave me that it was within Noctis's life.
Well, Noctis isn't really old, so he
No, but
um,
Lies of Keel when he was in the war, I don't know what age he would have been, but I just think Noctis could have been born at the time this whole war was going on.
possibly, but we don't really have any metric for that. But we know it's within the lifetime of a owl. That's what we know for sure. And for that to fade into legend, it really relies on the word of mouth angle. Of it just turns into stories that others tell, and it's not documented widespread. Obviously, at the tree, they document their own history, but outside, we don't really know what civilization for these owls look like.
Man, that's
Are there
crazy.
owl cities? Do they just live around in the trees on their own, kind of? Like, what is
Are
the
they
owl
scattered?
civilization?
That's wild
Yeah,
that a
it's
2-day travel to like the Guardians of Gahul tree can turn things into legend.
yeah. Well, it's either
Well,
a
we don't know
2-day
if it's confirmed
travel or if
2 days.
it's like 2 months,
That
but
was a reference.
they just go back and forth, and we really don't know. I think they do enough to like hide the fact that they could be very far apart. Because I was very, it was. I'll jump to the end. When the Guardians of Gahul are starting their fight, and we learn that you know, Alamir is a traitor when Soren figures it out or whatever, and they set off. We could assume they set off immediately after the Guardians, and they're just showing us what's happening to them, like ahead, 10 minutes ahead of where Soren and the others are following behind.
Oh,
It's just
I got it.
badly edited. Yeah, yeah. I think it's just badly edited that way,
Yeah, because no way
but it
Soren would be super fast.
yeah. But it comes across to me like they left like 10 minutes after the Guardians and just tried to keep pace. So like they left shortly after and that was just enough time for them to fall into the trap and then get there. They it's edited weird, but there's enough to infer that's what happened, which I guess I appreciate.
I don't know. You got the whole Ego team being cured of moon blinking, which I haven't a clue how that works.
Yeah,
Yep, couldn't
I
tell you.
assume.
But that
Yeah, I
can't
just
be
wrote that.
10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I just wrote that down. That's lucky, convenient, whatever. Because the other assumption is that the Guardians were just trapped there and weren't immediately killed for days.
For however long the flight there is, yeah,
Yeah.
they've just been sitting there, magnetized to the ground.
Yeah, the safety of Eglantine is the only thing really anchoring Soren to stay at the tree. And then it's like, oh, she's
Yeah,
safe. All right, time to go.
yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what happens. It feels like.
But I am
But
happy
then,
that, though, in a situation where she's been kidnapped kind of twice now, someone's actually looking over her.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, she is being watched. Didn't really get to see her fly. Too bad.
I
That's fine.
think. Yeah.
It is fine. She's too
Uh,
young to play.
Spriggs, got a point.
I have a animation error, actually.
Oh, I love those.
When uh, Noctis is training Kludd and Soren on the branches, and he takes off Soren's helmet, like the leaf helmet, and is like, "Okay, time to be serious." And I was like, where does helmet go?" kind of thing. And then at the end, when they're like outside their little hole in the tree, he gives it back. When it cuts back to Noctis, I think when Soren's going down to the next branch, you see both of Noctis's talons on the branch, and neither one is holding the helmet.
He could have hung it on one of his underwing feathers. I don't know. I agree. It's an error.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would have been fine with it if it didn't show both talons.
Yeah, because it could have been holding it in
Yeah,
the other one.
could have been just like hiding over the edge of the branch, and I'm like, oh, okay, but it showed both. He wasn't holding it. I don't know where it went.
Good catch.
And that was at a 504.
Let's see. For me, this is I guess I technically brought it up in the Muppets Christmas Carol. Is animals. So we get bats, we get crows,
Oh,
but they aren't sentient. But snakes and owls are.
I mean, you also brought
I
this
think.
up in Kung Fu Panda 4. Like some talk,
Yeah.
some don't.
I suppose I did.
I
Well,
think. I think.
with the manta ray. Yeah.
I think bats are sentient. We just don't hear them talk because they have weapons attached to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the mouse that
But we just
Noctis
don't hear
gets
them.
doesn't talk. The whatever rodent creature that attacks him on the forest floor.
Yeah, they don't talk.
Yeah.
And the crows don't talk, though. It's implied they just work for the
Yeah.
armadillo.
And I was gonna play it off of like, oh, they don't speak owl, and that's fine. But then you got Mrs. P, and she's a snake.
She's a very educated nursemaid, I guess.
Yeah. So just kind of inconsistent, or not inconsistent. Just no explanation to why some speak and some don't speak.
Yeah. I guess if we can go in my big question, and I'm sure the people who've read the book know what it is. What is this soul magnet?
Uh,
I just
that
wrote
was
it
going
as
to be a
soul
question I would
magnet.
have.
I don't know what it is.
Well, they said it's tied to a gizzard, which is why the bats aren't affected. And a
Oh yeah,
gizzard is just an
that's the other thing.
organ.
This movie might be the movie I've heard the word gizzard in the most.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot.
Trust your gizzard.
So I have no idea what it was because I thought it was like a magnet, but as far as I'm aware, gizzards aren't magnetic,
No.
and the bats wear metal stuff, so they would get sucked down.
Yeah, I took it
So
as a
I
magnet
think it's just
because
I
mystical
think it's.
they're
nonsense.
giving
I
it
think it's
metal.
magic. Yeah, straight up just magic.
Some magical ore that for some reason is in pellets that rats eat.
Well, okay, I
Uh,
didn't think the things in pellets, just what makes it bigger, like little pieces of metal. But are the metal like special than what blacksmith metal is for like helmets? Because you pointed out, Crimson, it's not sucking the metal talons and helmets off of owls.
And nor does it affect the bats. That's why they were going to kill them with bats.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. The bat having like a blade on its wing, that looked cool.
mhm.
Hey,
That's the design of the bats were pretty cool. That the heads and everything look nice, red eyes.
Yeah.
Um, but well, yeah, the explanation of it was the material, the mineral, is from what rats eat, and then the owls eat the rats and then puke up the remains. So I don't know what the rats are eating for this mineral
I
to be utilized.
I also took it as they aren't in every pellet that they're dismembering. It just happened to have been in the first pellet that was dismembered.
Lucky, but yeah, I don't know the
Yeah,
rarity of the drop in owl pellets this stuff is.
yeah. That's kind of what they came out across to me as they're looking through uh, owl pellets in that way, and then it just does. It's not in every single owl pellet. It just happened to have been in that one as an example,
Yeah.
and they just discard the rest of it. So they're sifting through something to enormous. Looking for a needle in a haystack, only more common. kind of, I guess, would be my understanding of what they're searching for.
So my guess, having not read the books, is the flex is from a specific place. I don't know if it's like a temple or I don't know, some specific place. And rodents are frequent there and they eat some of whatever is there and travel. And then the owls eat the rats. And then that's how they don't know the location of the place, but they know the rodents eat some. So that's how they're mining the resources by eating the rats. That is a complete guess because I don't know where the rodents are getting these and why the owls can't just get it themselves because the rodents are getting them somewhere.
Might have something to do with just the food chain, like something that the rodents eat that the owls don't. But again, that's just inference and guesswork. Springs got a point.
Probably. Let's see. Okay, so being a first time watcher of this film, Kled was a very interesting character. I mean, when the movie's done, I get who he is. But going in, I thought Kled first when Soren says, "You're my brother, come with me." And the queen goes, "Is this true?" And he's being quiet. I went, "Oh, is this a smart move of Kled trying to get trying to get closer on the other side and like being good for the queen and being like powers like then I can save you this way, like saving his
That's what I
brother."
thought.
And I went, "Okay, interesting." And then I'm like, "Oh no, he's getting more malicious." And then it got to the kidnapping scene with his sister, and Eglinton's talking to Cludd, and there's a part where Cludd is just watching the queen fly and not paying attention to his sister at all. And I went, "Oh no, he has a crush on the queen. That's what it is. He's trying to get with the queen." And then I went, "Oh, absolutely not. He's not getting. He just hates his brother." And I just went, "Wow, they didn't really show much of that at all at the beginning."
It's kind of interpretive his entire motive. I don't know how much is brother hate driven or how much of it is finding people that appreciate who he is and want to better him. Because
Or
in his eyes, his father's propping up his
it's about
Soren.
the owl he is, right? What do you call him? A Tito?
Yeah,
I never wrote it
if you're
down.
not a Taito, you're not a pure one. Like
Yeah,
they
Yeah,
it's like
very much
the
villains of
owl.
World War II kind of a
lots of
feeling.
that in here. Yeah, yeah, lots of that in there. So I don't know how much of it's just hate towards brother or just a found family with people that understand him and are trying to push him in a better direction in air quotes.
And it might be that just Nyla's teaching method is working better, so he feels more loyal because it's been more useful to him to learn it that way than it was with his dad. Um, the interesting thing about Cludd is that I also had the same thing as you, Springs, when he gave when he was asked if that was true and he turned away from his brother. I wrote that down. He might be equally terrified right now, and this is his way of avoiding punishment, or he's being smart. And then obviously we get the rest of the story, so I kind of threw those motivations out the
Yeah,
window a bit, um, which is a kind of a shame. I think there's a lot of potential in Cludd, but I think the way he ends up makes him a more confusing character.
eh, I guess so. I just wanted to see more motivation from him because he's very like.
Yeah,
I'm still confused at the parts with the kidnapping his sister. I'm like, oh, he's just proving himself and he's figuring out like he can get through like out of this. He knows what he's doing. And then at the end, when it's all done with, I went, well, he did know what he was planning to do, but I
yeah,
just didn't get how he hated his family. Because he's also,
yeah.
it's
Like I
not
said,
just hate for his brother, it's also kidnapping his sister and moon blinking her.
yeah,
Well, his
he's
plan wasn't to moon blink her. Once she wasn't for what he's for, then he decided to do that. I think he was very twisted in finding this new family, and he just wanted her to be a part of it. I don't know why he wants her a part of it, but
Well, he said it was a
once
plan,
she
right, to the
again.
queen? He's
I
like, oh,
think
I know
he
someone we can go get.
Yeah, I think he wants. He again, I think he genuinely just wants his family to be with him, so he doesn't come across as that's both proving himself as, "Oh, I also can bring my family into this so they can avoid, being on the receiving end of this," or something to that effect. Because there is when it comes to his sister, like I said, this is why I would like his motivations to be more fleshed out because it's very opaque, his characterization. Because getting his motivations flushed out would clear up the questions we have surrounding about why he would kidnap his sister. Is it to prove himself? Is it because he wants to like save his? Is it his way of saving a member of his family, or is it like there's not much to go on? Or we have best guesswork, and that's kind of what I
The
feel like his character
the
is.
best they give is during the fight with Soren at the end, which I gives his motivation. I think, at least to me, of like why he did the things he
He
did and what he's striving to do. But I
He's
just didn't
that
see a
involved
lot of
about the
that
Guardian
prior.
stories and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, that's why I think Crimson and I were met when they said we appreciate that there's a foundation for their split, but it's rocky as it is in terms of like it's not a great foundation because it doesn't make Cludd's motivations clear enough for that to come across. That how much he hates his
Yeah. Hmm.
um, I will jump to Radagast. I mean Digger. Um
Oh, I
and
got it.
yeah, the crazy owl
Yeah.
that's dirty and digs and yeah, I uh so I think this is a very so I understand why they want to introduce side characters, but I questioning the point of Digger specifically.
Is he the comedic relief in the film?
I think he is. That's the intention behind him.
Like him in
I
Twilight
don't
or the
know.
Timon and Pumbaa?
Kinda, but the
I
problem is
think so.
I think they justified Twilight's place more than Digger.
I
Because
can
Twilight,
agree with that.
because Twilight comes across to me as more of a like the big muscly guy, and he also happens to bring Mrs. P back, which is convenient, but it gives him a reason to have been there. He's lonely, and they're both lonely, and that's the reason they set out on the journey. But Digger, they just happen to come across like
It was
coincidentally
very convenient. As soon as they land, they meet an owl.
as soon as they land because he just happened to be going for the same moth.
Yeah. I do. I don't know if it's just a way because everything's trees and then a rocky surface with Metal Beak's army, whatever. If this is a way to just incorporate another type of owl, like a burrowing owl.
Oh, I genuinely think that's the intention. They're trying to incorporate a diversity of different owls because we get plenty of different owls littered throughout the story.
Yeah. But it's just not a lot of breathing room. I mean, they just get out
Hmm.
of surviving after escape, and Soren and Gylfi land and are immediately met by a new character.
Hmm. It's very convenient.
That's something this movie does. I don't think it gives a lot of breathing room.
Oh, yeah, 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 absolutely. Especially because in this instance, they're specifically trying to look for a place to rest, and they immediately leave upon getting their house after like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little nicks like that littered throughout the story. Uh, Crimson, got a point.
Yeah, how were they found in that snowstorm when they were on their way to Gahul?
Good question.
Story
Next
convenience.
question. I have
Next
no
question.
idea.
Yeah, I was waiting for an explanation from them. Like, we got this like weird sonar radar thingy we got, so we
Yeah.
can track any enemy combatants that enter our airspace.
My best faith
Nothing.
assumption is they just happened upon a patrol.
The burrowing owl's wings were so loud we could have grabbed him in the dark.
Maybe. But it comes across like they were just patrolling the area because they are geared up for battle. Like they're wearing their helmets and they have their armored talons on. So my best faith assumption is they're just patrolling the area.
Yeah. Just again, very
Good.
Possibly,
convenient
but it's
that
just very
in
convenient.
the time
Yeah.
of problem, they meet an owl. I don't
Yeah.
like that they meet an owl in a world that shows that there's other creatures and animals besides owls. I think
Is
that
this
might be
with
a
the
little nick for
Guardians
me.
or with Digger?
Both. I think that's a little nick for me.
Like instead of coming across, I don't know, a talking grasshopper that was being chased by Mrs.
Yeah.
P, they just
Or like
happened
when
to
they
run into an
land
owl.
before Digger and like something's in the water, like a gator or something, and they like scurry off, and like then they get to Digger. Or when they fall, there's like a whale or something, like in other animal instance. But I don't know if in this world, if that's like a book thing, like certain creatures exist or something, because you said it's in Australia, and I never picked that up. I never got an instance of
Believe
like
me, neither
where
did
this
I
is.
until I read it.
So I just think with some other animals besides owls present in this story, why isn't there more animals present in this story?
Yeah, it would be interesting if they have like, squirrels that help them with the Great Tree. Like, they help maintain things. They have their own
That'd be cool.
distinct culture. So there's definitely other places where they could have fit it in.
And you got
I
the
don't know.
hedgehog. Is it?
Hedgehog, armadillo, or porcupine. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's an armadillo.
Given it's Australia, I'm leaning hedgehog
Yeah.
or porcupine.
I think it's a hedgehog. Yeah, we just don't know the landscape. Like, are owls in this universe like humans here, where you could go everywhere and find people, but you can't go everywhere and find animals, right? That we've just conquered the landscape. We don't really know what it looks like in this world. We
I
got a
guess
very
that's
narrow lens.
right. Or quick thing, I guess, for that with the 16 books this have, are they all the Owls of Ga'Hoole?
They are all within the world. Yeah.
Okay, there's no like storyline of like the the
Oh,
stories of
I
the
see what you mean. Like,
vanguards, the
it
bears
follows
of
only
Ga'Hoole,
the owls.
so yeah,
That's a good question. Let me look it up. Give me a second.
the pigeons of Ga'Hoole, or so.
Oh, it's not the bluebirds of Ga'Hoole because we know those don't
Oh
talk.
no, the birds don't talk, the mice don't talk, whatever that rodent creature thing is. I don't know what that was. It's not a
I don't
badger.
know.
It's like a big rat, but
Yeah,
it's
but it's not a
it's
nutria or a capybara.
no, and
It's
it's not as
uh,
big as an RUS
no, doesn't have quite the tail either.
or RU
Uh, at
ROUS.
a glance, it looks to be entirely focused on the owls because there's an owl on every cover.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Because even the title of the movie, I'm like, it's a long title for a movie, but just kind of like the presence of Legends of the Guardians, and then um,
Owls of
surname
Ga'Hoole.
or whatever it's called. What's like the following? It's not tagline, but like preface.
Mhm.
It's got a word for it. I
Preface. Yeah.
preface. Yeah. Owls of Ga'Hoole. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe there's other Legends of the Guardians stuff of other things.
Well, it could be
Yeah.
different factions of owls, though. Like this just covered Ga'Hoole, but there could be another place
There could be other
for owls or
factions.
something.
For as
Yeah.
far as there's the Guardians, there's the Pure Ones, and there could be others,
You could
but
have
I don't
stories of the
know based on the
vanguards, the
yeah.
tales of the I don't know, cryptics or something. I don't know
Mhm.
if they're going the same vein of like Legends of the Guardian, like the same thing. I don't know. I don't mean to piss off the fans of Legends of the Guardians. I'm a
We're
guy
just
who
going off the
doesn't know.
movies.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going off of the one film. There was
Uh,
I was gonna say there's a weird line. I don't have the timestamp for it, but it's after the moon blink or like the first moon blink with Soren and Gylfi, and they're just staying there, I guess, trying to stay awake. And Gylfi says, "I'm cold," and Soren's response is "together." And
Mhm.
I don't understand how.
uh,
Like,
I
is it
I
bad
think you might have heard that.
writing?
I think you might have heard that wrong because I think he says, "Come here," and they huddle
Oh, he
together.
says, "Come here, not together."
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and then they huddle together, and then that and it's like we'll get through this together, something like that.
then that's on me if
I don't
that's true.
remember.
Uh, yeah, I will say I do like Grimble. Uh, I like I guess his story that he's just been hiding out and waiting for someone intelligent enough to resist, or like and smart enough to resist to get away with it to kind of teach them. it's very convenient that it happens to be our main characters, but I appreciate the sentiment of the character.
Does that just show how dumb owls are in this world? Because Soren just seems like common sense.
I mean,
Mm,
their eyes aren't glazed over. It should be very easy to tell that they're not
Oh, to
yeah,
identify, yeah.
affected.
yeah, which is why I think they do get the benefit of being uh noticed by the old one because he would notice. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very obvious they're not moon blinked
I meant when
because
they're
moon
just
blinked owls look
standing
blind
there.
almost.
I meant when they're standing there getting moon blinked and Gilfy and Soren are like, just stay together, don't fall asleep kind of thing. Why aren't they like spreading the word to the other owls around them?
Oh, they don't care about the other owls.
Yeah, but then the other owls don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's
Tell
happening
me,
either, to
what
be honest
is
with you.
moon
Well, I'm
blinking?
just going
I
like
have no idea.
Soren and Gilfy kind of know what's going on. They're allowing all the other owls that got kidnapped like them to be enslaved.
Well, Soren has no idea what's going on. He's just listening to what she
Gylfi
said.
has a Gylfi has a
Giffy knows.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gylfi knows because evidently she comes from a region where they know what that
So
is.
Gilfy's allowing these other owls to be captured.
Kinda,
I
yeah.
mean, it's if I mean, it depends on how you want to frame it. Like, how would she tell the others?
Just start whispering to one to one to one, and they just spread.
Wouldn't that get the bad guys noticeable that that's happening, and then that would cause a problem?
Possibly, but I just don't. It just seems like stupid. Like these owls are just like, oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm
I'm
looking
not
at it.
opposed to her keeping it to herself because she doesn't know
She's
the
very scared.
ramifications
Yeah,
about spreading
I
it.
don't want to look at it like the Bugs Life situation, where it's like, oh, if one owl stands up, they all stand up, like they can outnumber them, kind of thing. That's not at all what I think
Mhm.
could occur here. These owls are all scared out of their minds. They couldn't fight back.
Oh, and they're just
You
young
also have to
ones.
remember that they're all kids as well, according to them all
Owlets.
now being orphans and owlets. So it would be harder to get kids to fall in line with that.
Yeah,
What what do you guys think Moonblink is?
zombification.
Uh,
I don't know else to classify it as.
as Gilfy describes it, it's just you lose your sense of self and you lose your mind. It's like you lose who you are. That's pretty much the best I can assume from based on what you told.
Yeah, but they still function and follow orders.
Yeah, it feels like they become puppets isn't the right word, but like they lose their sense of identity and just become mindless drones.
I don't really understand how it works either, though. Like how it happens.
Yeah, sleep while staring at the moon or full moon.
Yeah.
Is full moon one
Uh,
of the rules they said?
I think they just said moon, didn't they?
Yeah, they owls do sleep with their eyes open, so I think the idea behind it is that if they sleep while if they fall asleep while staring at the moon, that's what causes the
Moon blinking.
moon
Actually, that's
blinking.
true. I don't
Did
think
they?
owls have eyelids, right?
Oh, that's a problem then because they blink.
Yeah, because they
Well,
fake sleep and stuff. I don't think owls have eyelids. Let
I
me double
they
check that.
they
I think I
blink,
remember that.
they blink, but I don't know if it's I don't know if they have eyelids. I'll just check.
Yeah. Well, so you're both. I don't know. I didn't write it. It didn't. I thought there said something about the full moon, but if it's just any moon, then it's totally fine. But
They have three
if
eyelids.
it's full
Yeah,
moon needed
how
for a moon blink, then that gives a time difference when Eglantine gets moon blinked. That a whole new cycle has gone through.
based on just looking at the owls having three eyelids,
They're
I
clear
think
eyelids.
yeah, it feels like the nictitating membrane is kind of what falls over their eyes when they're moon blinked. I don't think it has any effect on like how they see and stuff, but
Oh yeah, the moon blinked ones aren't bumping into walls.
yeah.
And they're moving stuff around, and they have spatial awareness to some degree. They're not walking off the cliffs or anything.
No.
So the moon blink thing is just a weird addition to me.
I get why it's here, but I think it's something they definitely need to flush out a bit more because of the effect that it has on the story. Because if it didn't wear off on Eglantine in time or in that specific way, the Guardians are all dead. Uh, and also, it needs to not affect our main character so they can get away in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, I feel if they had like a sorceress character, or if they don't want to do magic, they could have a special bird that has a special song that enchants
Just do a siren.
um, birds.
The Siren Bird, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying to craft within this universe, and I don't know how it works, but I feel like just looking up at the moon and sleeping, and then you turn into a zombie that listens to commands is a bit out there.
Oh no! Is it like Warm Bodies? Did they get zombified and get healed by the power of love?
I hope it's not the power of love,
How did
but that
Eglantine
might
get
be
out of
what
a
it is.
trance?
I don't know.
I
I mean,
don't
that was
have
one of my
anything to
issues is
disprove that with
why
what
did
I've
that
got,
happen?
so.
God, it could be like
Oh,
Warm Bodies.
yeah.
And no one wants that.
There's nothing to disprove that, unfortunately, with what we've got. Um,
So, Ryder, you brought it up earlier that Grimble takes in those who resist because they're stronger. Has he
no,
brought
he
in?
waited until he brought someone who resist. He promised himself that if he ever did find someone strong enough to resist or smart enough to resist, he would teach them how to escape and survive.
Okay, so these is that implying these are the only two have done so ever in this presence?
They are the first two, I would think.
Okay,
Otherwise, it has to be the first two that he noticed, which is means he's bad at his job. But they might be just the first two that he noticed, which is what allows the uh, which is why it just happens to be our main character.
okay.
He could just be stupid enough and have missed it before. Though most owls are evidently unaware of moon blinking, so it might just be that they're lucky because of Gilfy. She just happens to be have taken from a region that knows what it is.
I guess so, but she's the only one from that region I guess ever taken.
Yeah. So there's problems all around. But
And Grimble doesn't know about that region, otherwise he'd look out for that specific kind of owl.
yeah.
Yeah, the desert owl. Mm.
Yeah. Like I said, it's weird because a lot of what I would describe with this movie is there is a through line connecting. There are through lines connecting places and dots being drawn like with lines and stuff like that, like connecting the dots. But a lot of it has like missing pieces and stuff like that. So it feels like, uh,
Another movie with a bunch of holes?
yeah, it's got a bunch of holes in it. Uh,
Or is it a movie that's just loose?
uh, I think
Kind
this
of
would
loose.
be, yeah, more loose than hole filled. Um, I will jump to uh the ending because why not? I know. Uh, I did enjoy the action scene when the Guardians are actually able to fight because they wipe the floor with the bad guys once they're capable of fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, time in a competition.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it does boil it down to because like we do see what their training regiment is like and stuff like that. So I do actually like the fact that they're really good at what they do once they're all able to fight and stuff like that. Because even exhausted, having been under the effect of the the Fleck
Flex.
magnetism thing,
Fleck.
that they are all able to stand up to. They're able to put up a very good fight. And like I said, the action sequences are pretty dynamic and dare I say decently choreographed.
Yeah, how do you guys feel
Sure.
about the seed drop of the mention of fire is the life of the tree or whatever, and then connecting the dots of using fire for the climax.
Honestly, I didn't even see that as a thread because they're so disconnected.
Didn't pick up on it.
Yeah,
Because why else would you even throw that in there? It's nothing to do with anything.
Just use it as a
the
bomb to break the machine.
I didn't even see the relevance. If that's their attempt at trying to tie the idea together, I think they did a poor job.
That's how I saw it. Was they were setting up fire for him, but maybe not.
I'm curious, how did the forest go into flames?
No idea.
No
Okay,
idea.
thank you. I didn't know if that's a scene I missed or something because
Nope,
No,
it's the
it's
I
in
don't know how
internal
general
it burst
forest
into
flame.
fire.
flame.
Yeah, and that's why I jokingly called it Mordor. It's just constantly on fire. I have no idea why.
Oh,
Um,
Nothing on it.
Crimson.
Okie dokie. Let's talk about the king, the
Metal Beak.
Metal Beak. Yeah. How do you guys feel he is as a villain?
I think he's kind of cool. I do wish we saw his face at one point. Because even after he's dead, his mask falls off, but we don't know what the scarred look looks like.
I think comparatively, I like his design. I think they got a good voice for him in terms of voice actor. Um, he doesn't really do much as a villain. He kind of just lets his henchmen do the handiwork until he's straight up attacked by the lies of lies of keys,
Liza
yeah, something
Keel.
like that.
Yeah.
Lies of Keel.
Which is
So
easier to
he,
say than Izilio?
I
Whatever.
know.
I don't know how to
It's
say it.
spelled so weirdly. I had to look it up how to spell the name.
yeah. So that's my takeaway as far as the villain is. I think his design is very cool. I think they have a good voice for him. I don't think they utilize him enough as in terms of a villain. He's very much it feels like Nyla is the main villain almost for a majority of the film.
She does a lot more. He's kind of just
Yeah.
like, ah,
If I were to get him involved more, I would like, I don't know, get him into the planning process with Nyla. Don't imply the planning process. The only thing that he quote unquote does proactively up until he's attacked by Lies of Keel is give speeches and oh, what was it? Uh, he
he sees the new
and he's
tributes,
talking with the traitor.
the new soldiers.
Yeah,
Oh, Alomir?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking with the traitor. He doesn't do much in terms of being a proactive character, which is, I guess, my takeaway in the villain.
He
He's serviceable, but he isn't proactive.
reminds me a little about of the Emperor from Star Wars.
Yeah, but even the Emperor got proactive by the end, because his whole thing
Well,
is,
so did
it was,
Metalbeak. He got into a fight with Soren and Liza Keel. Like he got action when it
yeah,
came to him.
that's true. But you
But
also have a lot more build up to the Emperor as well. Like people are, you are talking about him in movies before we see him.
well, yes, that's far more knowledge and information on the character given. I just in this one thing of this guy who kind of sits in a chair but rules everything and
I
has a
see what you
partner
mean.
who
He's
does a
more
lot.
direct.
And then when it gets to him actually getting his hands dirty, he gets his hands dirty. He's not a
Yeah,
pushover.
I guess. So yeah, I have mixed feelings on the villain. Would be my final answer.
Yeah, I think I have a similar stance where he's just there. He fulfills his role as generic bad guy to me, but it does feel lacking that he's less involved in everything. Like I don't need him to do I'll just call her the queen. I never wrote her name down. The queen's job. But I don't know what I'd want him to do either. It's kind of a weird they put him in a weird position where I don't know how he would really be proactive.
I do like that he
Uh,
doesn't have like this hatred and wanting for revenge on Liza Keel of what he did to him. I like
Yeah,
that
I
that's not
like
like
that
a
he
huge
also.
motivation for him.
Yeah, I like that as well. He's just trying to get back to work and conquer the world. I do appreciate that as well. I think one of the things I guess one of the options to make him more proactive is maybe he helps train, like the way his queen does. Like you don't necessarily need to give him the job, but like Nyla starts the training, and then the really really like standout students like Kludd would be, maybe he takes a personal interest in them.
He'd take him under his wing.
But
Hey.
yeah, something like that would be a potential fix to get him more involved because with what we have, we don't really get a lot of involvement. Uh, and mind you, I don't need my villains to be involved. My villains could be a ball of fire and sit in a tower the entire trilogy, and I could still feel the presence and threat of them. But for him, we don't really have uh, a baseline as far as like what this villain is.
No. And it all to me being just like the pace and like how tight the world is in this film of what they're getting, like all this story and lore they're trying to get to you, it feels like he just started. Like he's just building his army now, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
which
Like,
is weird, especially since he was involved in the last war. You feel like he'd
yeah.
been. I would want the sense of like he's been at this for a while.
And the Guardians of Gahul at the tree know he's not no fable. He's not a made up fictitious tale.
Yeah, which is why I take issue with the Alamir pretending it's from the beginning. Like it's not a true thing. I take issue with that because that would have made him suspicious in the eyes of the Guardians.
Well, wasn't he perceived dead? Like it was kind of an MIA thing.
Oh, maybe
Metal
that
Beak.
might have
At
that.
least that's what the story was like.
It's
Uh,
implying that for sure.
yeah. So I don't have a problem with the Guardians not knowing he's there unless his presence of like kidnapping becomes a real thing
Yeah,
to where
well,
they
because of
couldn't
how
ignore
many
that.
yeah, about how many kids have been stolen, it's kind of lucky, I guess, that they other owls haven't found them incidentally trying to figure out what's going on.
Noctis didn't spread
Yeah,
any word?
especially when they have huh?
That's not on just Noctis. That's on every orphan
Oh, true.
owl.
It's just that's the parent we know of. I mean,
Yeah,
like
it's
Gilfy's
just
family, nothing on
yeah. Like I
them.
said,
But
I attribute it to like I said, it's a world building problem. So
I mean, it just goes down. We don't know the civilization of the owls. I mean, is there a government? The Gahul is, like or not, a legend at this point. People don't
yeah,
know
it
it's
comes to
real or
me
not.
across like
So
Gahul comes across to me like Asgard does in the MCU to a lot of other races.
oh, interesting.
that's a good
Like they exist,
connection.
but they've fallen into legend. You know,
Yeah, but mm, I
I
don't know.
agree that the
It's
world
not
building
like
is not
Asgard,
great enough to get them. Yeah,
but it's not like Asgard's like a 2 hour drive kind of thing.
Depends to what species.
I guess so.
To humans, it's not, but some others, it wouldn't be a long travel.
I guess that makes sense. To a mouse, that's acres to cross, kind of thing.
Yeah, but for owls, they can fly. It's not the end of the world.
They can, but it's not
Uh,
like they're super fast.
mhm. So yeah, something.
I don't know. It seems like from the Shire to the Misty Mountain, a fable tale or whatever doesn't seem that outrageous.
yeah, I can agree with that. It's just that's what they portrayed the Guardians as through their stories.
Yeah.
And like I said, I what I want is more flesh on the owl culture because that would fix a lot of I think these world building problems.
Yeah, because with the Guardians being myth or legend, Owl Society, is there Owl Society? Is there
Have you
countries,
I
seen
I
don't
the
know.
guess,
meaning
or
of
That's
there?
regions?
that's why I kind of
Is
took up
there
Noctis.
policing?
Noctis takes it. I am given the benefit of the doubt that Noctis knows what he is telling his children is a real thing, and he's not just being stupid. That he's just kind of hiding them in this forest in this tree to keep him away from all that.
Okay, and why would it be stupid?
Of him just being like making up tales that fit exactly with what something that's occurred.
Making Why couldn't he have heard that from someone else? I don't understand what the barrier is.
Oh, he's just so cut off with what happened in the war that it's only through word of mouth that he takes in.
Well, we know he wasn't there, so he
Yeah.
had to have heard it from someone else.
And
Yeah.
Noctis's
He
mindset is just belief that it's just a story.
Could be. We don't
Yeah.
know how the person told him.
I see.
The reason that I would infer closer what Crimson is saying is because we have a direct comparison given by the film, because he does read like Lies of Keel's direct account of the battle, and how it differs from his father. Like he comments how different the story actually is. He's like, it's not glorious. It's like this.
Okay.
What does
Um,
okay mean?
Okay means I see what you're getting at of like details left out that are completely different stories, but I can also see it of like it's children being told a tale. They're not going to talk about like how gruesome and the actual like facts of things to protect them. So that's like 50-50 on that aspect.
Alrighty. Ready?
um,
Ready? Ready?
whose original point to that? Because that was a long. Uh, Screw it. I'll go next. Um, I quite kind of touching, I guess, on my personal note of what I liked about the villain. I like that his voice isn't chaotic or like overtly evil. It's just sharp, clear, and distinct. It's a very specific kind of voice that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I'm evil, man.
Yeah,
It's deep and menacing, but not cartoony.
yeah. Uh, I will also say, very convenient that Kludd goes into battle without a helmet on to disguise himself, like
I
as
had
a
that.
like, not a soldier. He's just going in as himself.
Yep,
He knows what he's doing.
because
I mean,
that's
that would
true.
be
He did that just to get his brother's attention to
that would
fight
be
him.
yeah. Like I said, I think it would be more interesting if he was in the battle in like a helmet as a soldier, and then he saw his brother and ripped his helmet off to
Good point.
to get it.
Because how does Cludd even know Soren's there?
He just assumes like, oh, it's Soren's responsible. It's pretty funny. And also none of these flying creatures interfere with Soren dropping a firebomb.
No, they all just watch.
True.
It's granted it's in slow mo, so it could all take place in I don't know under the course of 10 seconds for all I know, but it's still like no one tried to stop it.
What did
Like
he
that's
catch on fire, by the way?
An oil
uh,
lantern?
it looks like an oil lantern pot, kinda, yeah,
Okay, I thought it was just a metal bowl thing. It's
yeah.
like,
It's lucky that
why
it's
did that catch
there,
on fire?
yeah.
But if it's an
Lucky,
oil lamp, I guess that makes sense.
yeah. It's lucky that there was an oil lamp in general to be picked up
No,
because
I
True.
mean a lot of those
how
spires had like torches on them.
yeah. Which begs the question: can elves see at night?
Uh, sure, yeah.
It's a little, like I said, they're a little inconsistent on the world building and ability of owls.
Well, it's for the non-owls in the civilization,
The
for the
bats,
Yeah,
bluebirds
you're
and
right.
the
The bats
bats that
aren't
are
able to see at
nocturnal.
night.
yeah.
Yeah,
Bats aren't known to be
the
nocturnal.
the rats,
Yeah,
even though
the
they have
rats in the
some sense
battle.
of stuff. I don't know.
I think the
Like I said,
forest
it's
being on fire is more egregious than an oil lamp.
yeah. Like I said, I'm fine with the torches. There, it's like quote unquote part of civilization. They've unlocked the key to fire. Clap clap. Um, uh, so yeah, I think the forest just being on fire out of nowhere is egregious. I agree. That would be my pick for being more egregious. Um, Springs. Got a point.
Yes, I just like I'd like to see behind the scenes how long it took to animate the slow mo scenes. Like how many weeks that would take for this crew of, I think you said 500 animators.
Uh,
Not saying necessarily
Total of 500.
all worked on one scene,
500
but
crew.
Yeah, there was a total of that many people working on the film. They could have been, majority of them could have been animators, but it could have been like specific people who go into the like owl sanctuaries and stuff like that.
okay. I'm just curious because like how would that work? Because is it because it's the use of movement in slow motion? I highly doubt that they animated normally and then edited in slow motion over what was animated. I'm leaning more that it's animated that way, but they can't just have like how many freeze frames are in a frame before a movement of a new drawing or animated movement has to be placed, kind of thing.
That's the beauty of CGI. You don't have to hand draw.
That's the so you have a scene, let's say swiping the claw across the screen, and average you get 30 frames a second for an animation, right? Typically, um, and 2009. So you'd have 30 images within, let's say that slash is 2 seconds. You slow that down by 50%, so it takes 4 seconds. Um, then you just have to multiply the frames, and that's how many images they'd have to do for the slow mo.
Okay, so all um, being computer.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, the movie's CGI, like all Pixar movies are and stuff like that. So, like, they have the character model. They don't have to do anything. Like, they don't have to hand draw anything.
No, it's not hand drawn, but still movement implicated because
Yeah.
it's not just a frozen freeze frame. But to get the movement, is it just normal, but like everything's just slowed down, like minuscule to centimeter kind of thing movement in world?
Oh, like you
I'm
mean
just
like
curious how
how
that
they are
works.
slowing down, like the like small bits of combat for us to like hyper focus in on to look
Like,
cool.
like
Spriggs
in
is talking about the production of how they are approaching
yeah,
slow
like the
mo.
typhoon, where Soren's with the water. When it being in that slow mo shot, how how many frozen frames are shown in one singular image for the slow mo before a movement of the raindrop and Soren have to move? Is it the same amount as everything else in the film?
Yeah, the slow mo is still the whole thing. Let's just go with the 30 frames. Everything's 30 frames, even the slow motion. Just what's being shown is stretched out of screen time, but it's still in the 30 frames.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, the benefit of this being all computer generated, it is technically artificial slow motion. They didn't film it obviously to be slow mo, but it's I guess more natural for an animation style to do this.
Okay, I see.
Like they can mimic the what a high speed camera's actions
I
by
guess in that
elongating this particular
yeah,
scene.
in that sense then it probably didn't take as long as I think it would.
No, probably not.
I mean, that typhoon bit, I'm sure took a while.
Yeah,
Well,
True,
I don't
but
yeah,
know water simulations in 2009 and what
all
program
the
they were
reflections.
utilizing, but
Yeah.
so kind of unknown on that. But.
mhm.
I don't like Grimble when he gets caught being a traitor and he tells Soren and Gylfi like, fly, get out of here, escape. I'll give you time.
And they just linger
And
for
the
like 10 seconds, 20 seconds,
I
a
think it's
minute.
yeah, I think it's lower than that. I think it's like 5 seconds. The Queen just gets him and then after them. He didn't really help.
Oh no, I thought the
Oh,
whole
you're
scene
on
where
him
they
for
were just
just
dancing on the
losing?
edge.
Well, that's on them. I just mean Grimble being like, go, I got you. I'll protect you.
Oh,
And
you
Grimble does. He try. I don't know if he even tries. The Queen
He
just like
pinned the
grabs him.
queen. He pinned the queen, and then
No, he means after his wing got broken and they take off, but they fall out. He doesn't really try beyond that point once they're out of the thing. He kind of just accepts his death. Is that what he means,
Yeah.
Spriggs?
during the fall. That's what you're
Yeah.
okay.
And once they're outside, he doesn't really try. I think is what Spriggs is getting
Okay.
at. To which
Yeah,
I
he could
agree.
have bit onto her and held onto her while
He
falling or
just gives up.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I could see it.
I do like at 29:23 timestamp the I guess torchlight, since there's lighting there. The Queen moves her head to look, I think, towards Soren, and the light reflects off her eyes, giving her like red eyes. And I thought that was a really cool look.
During the battle? Yeah.
Uh, During the chase.
Oh yeah. Oh well, the one I remember is more distinctly is the one in the battle. When Liza Keel rams into her and she gets knocked off, and the light reflects to make them look red.
Yes. What I don't understand though is I thought the helmets the Metal Beak's guards were wearing gave them red eyes, but then we see a helmet get knocked off and it has no like lenses or glass anything to give red eyes. It's just a metal helmet.
Yeah, it's a choice. I guess I appreciate the attempt to make their red eyes realistic, but then they wouldn't all have red eyes while looking directly into the moon. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
They wouldn't have red eyes all the time.
It's definitely for a visual aesthetic, which was a pretty cool visual. I did like the armor and how that all looked.
Yeah. Obviously, I think my favorite shot of the red eyes is actually Kludd's first red eyes at the end when we're getting Soren's narration to wrap up the story.
Oh, in
His
the
body was
smoke.
never found.
Yeah, and then you can see him looking at the helmet, and the way he looks at the helmet is just he gets the red eyes. I think that might have been my favorite implementation of it.
Yeah.
Crimson, you got a point?
Um, yes. I guess good on the writers. They got me because in my notes I was like, how did they know to set up the decoys? um, but then we find out that there's a traitor there tipped off, and I guess they used the flex on him, because we see that happen, but I guess he was okay with that. The
Uh,
Alamir, I think.
What do
That
you
was
mean?
the
the
traitor, right?
flex
Yeah,
on
Alamir's the
him?
traitor, but what do you mean the flex on him?
Well, the decoy attack, right? We get the blue light when the
Oh no, I think they were just testing the weapon. The idea was to lure them out. I
when
think.
I
when
th-
Alamir and the scouts dive bomb and take out the dummies,
yeah.
we
Mhm.
get a blue light and then it cuts because as an audience we don't know what the blue light means yet. But now that we know what it happens, I guess he just got magnetized to the ground while they killed the other scouts.
Uh, Either that happened or he was specifically out of range because remember he was going for like the tall one, like the one behind that particular mountain or on top of it. So it's possible that he was. It could be either way. In either case, it wouldn't matter that he escapes or they wouldn't kill him because he's the traitor.
Yeah.
I wish he had more, honestly, as a
Me too.
traitor.
Yeah, that's the
Because the reveal is, you said I could be king of the tree. That's it. You killed all of your friends from the war, your whole life pretty much. You buried them all because you wanted to be king. And I feel like they didn't build up his animosity towards his
Yeah, they do a
people.
better job. They do a better job of building up Grimble's animosity towards the bad guys rather than Alamir's reason for training, betraying. You know, greed is a
Yeah.
good motivator, but I feel like there should be a little bit more to it than that. Because I mean, Benedict Arnold's one of the famous traitors in history. Just gave it up because he was greedy, but also because he was constantly overlooked for promotions and things of that nature. So there was a few things that helped build resentment before Benedict Arnold betrayed the Continental Army. But it's like for uh, and for Alamir, we don't really get much beyond greed, which I think is it's fine as a motivator, but you need more because you're betraying your king and your friends, you know,
People you went to war with, presumably.
presumably.
huh.
Is that a disagreeing, huh?
No. No. I was just going with the I do agree Alamir would have benefited from more time given to him to cause of traitoring. Um I was just going on your point, Crimson, about the flex on him, and I didn't quite get that, but still, like the need of what Soren connected is someone had to be captured as proof to be taken to Gahul, and it just turned out to be Eglantine. I don't know if that was Kludd's plan of what he showed or something to keep Soren, but then he wanted Soren in the battle, so I don't know how. I think that's convenience sake.
I think it's just convenient that they chose Clud's sister,
Eglantine, okay,
especially with how much Clud wanted her to be indoctrinated. I think
yeah,
it's just pure luck
but the
and
plan was still
convenience.
to get some Owling to Gahul, so then they can rise a battle to go.
Yeah, there's he brings a couple owlets back like to pretend that they succeeded in rescuing uh the
Did he? Elmir
yeah he
brought
brings
Yeah,
more than
there
just
were
one?
two of them.
yeah he brings a couple yeah.
Oh,
So
There's
it's
two.
not just Kludd's sister or Eglantine. It's they do bring another one back. So it's they're trying to disguise their trap. So
okay.
if it had just been Eglantine, Soren would take that as a message.
Maybe. I don't know.
Alrighty. Hey, let's get
Um,
into something that I think is a real Sly Fox move by Ryder.
all right.
Watching this movie for the first time. Ryder, you said you saw this before. I don't know how much you
I
retained
did.
from it, but
Not enough, believe me.
okay. So you didn't mischievously, conveniently choose this to get us to talk more about Twilight yet again in some vein.
No, I did not. Once I
Okay.
heard I didn't even yeah. Once I heard the name, I was like, oh, that's funny, and then I just moved on. I didn't.
Okay. I went well played. You got us to talk to go about Twilight again.
It will never die. And then the show will come out.
Then that will cover the show.
Can't wait to cover Twilight of the Republic, and then we're gonna be that'll be an event.
Oh boy. But yeah,
um,
well on you for accidental.
Thank you. I appreciate the salute, good sir. I totally unintentional once again. Um, I like Liza Keel's line. Uh, well, this is what it actually looks like when you fought in battle. It's not glorious. It's not beautiful, and this is not, and it's not even heroic. It's merely doing what's right and doing it again, and even if someday you look like this. I quite like that speech. I am really bothered by, however, that this leads essentially to nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I Liza Keel delivering this, like, and then he's the one to kind of glorify his killing of Metal Beak at the end. I really bugged the shit out of me.
Gotta
Like,
rewrite the chronicles.
I know, like, it bugs the shit out of me because, like, yeah, he killed the big bad, but he, like, even the way the animators play it, it looks like Soren's in shock. Liza Keel should be the one talking him through it, not celebrating, because he would
Yeah, you
understand, like,
bagged your first kill, boy. Yeah.
yeah, well, he's
Need
like I said, we
comfort
have
right
to.
now.
Yeah, he's like, we have to amend the histories. That's what he says. I would prefer like him. I found that to be out of character for Liza Keel because Liza Keel would be the ones like, all right, you got to calm down. Like he would talk him down.
I don't know if he's a character that would emotionally coddle, though. I feel like he
I
would
don't
be
think
kind of
he.
blunt.
I think he would be blunt, but I don't think he'd be callous. There's a balance there that you have to walk, but I don't think it's this. I think it's completely sends the wrong message and it counteracts what he's been doing since before. Because you're right, he's very blunt as a character, but he's not like callous.
I don't think Soren's reaction to taking out Metal Beak gave enough reaction to Lies of Keel to act differently.
Not enough red flags. I don't know. The
Well, not
shock
a red
value is
flag,
there
but
for me.
like Soren being shocked, Liza Keel's approach was, "Hey, amend, the Chronicles. Like, go about it." If he saw Soren more like freaking out, like shaking, I think it would have been far more of the comfort approach.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have an issue with either way because I think Soren would have that reaction too. Even though he was really really angry, it's still his first kill.
I agree. Yeah, I think Liza Keel's reaction to what he's seen is appropriate for him.
Um, don't. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. I see. It's kind of like a missed opportunity trying to pay through both with Liza Keel being out of character or Soren being out of character. I think it's also they fumbled the ball on one of the themes they were trying to build up in when Liza Keel being kind of a grizzled veteran and there's nothing being there being nothing heroic about war. Sprinks, why don't you?
Let's see. There's it was a weird animation thing for me, and I couldn't quite get it. At 30 minutes 40 seconds, when Gylfi and Soren are leaving after being chased by the guards and they escaped, I guess on their way before they land and find Digger, Gylfi says, "Are they still following us?" And I think it's like before Soren looks behind him to see if the guards are there, and they're not. Then Gylfi says, "Are they still following us?" And Soren looks again, and I'm like, "Oh, there's gonna be a guard, like kind of a jump scare thing or something." And there isn't, and there's just a double take in the animation for no real reason. I
I
don't
actually
know
think it's
why.
I know why. I think that's the payoff of one of the earlier lines in the film is that they owls can fly silently through the air. So that's why
I
he's
was gonna say.
yeah. The payoff of that is the silence as they're as with just the air rushing past them.
Oh,
I think that is the point of that film.
I don't like it.
Uh,
Okay.
what, what did you say about it, Crimson?
I was gonna have the same response you did of the owls when they fly well are silent when flying. So, and that was told to Soren directly. So that would be something on his mind. So I that's how I registered the double take. But I'm not going to try to convince Sprinks into liking it if he doesn't like it.
Um, okay. Crimson, take it away. Another point.
We touched on slow mo a bit, but my particular question regarding it is, was it well utilized? Uh, it was said with Snyder that for him it's a little bit toned down on what he usually utilizes. And do you think he used it appropriately here? Too much, not enough? What do you guys think?
Too much. And the entirety of the
Uh,
film, too much.
I think there are a couple moments when this is interesting. I think the flight sequences more so would be too much. I think they're required for the battle sequences because we as people aren't used to seeing, you know, battling owls as terms of choreography. So I think it's needed for the action sequences in particular so we can out their talons are gliding against each other and they're kicking each other and hitting each other and that sort of thing. Instances where I think it might be too much is like Kludd having to dodge debris flying down at him or throwing the flag back or the it pausing while Soren's flying up into the camera and he dives back down. There are instances where I do think there is too much, but I think the combat sequences I think it is well utilized. That would be my distinguishing between both.
Yeah, I think it's required for the combat because it's kind of hard to tell
It'll be
if
hard to
you
tell
didn't
without it.
have that. Um, I like flying through the typhoon. I think is good use of it. Blood with throwing the flag and stuff that I don't think is required, but I think overall it's mostly utilized well.
Where would you feel it's too much, Springs?
Okay, so what your answer gave me a different approach to the question. You took it as individual sequences of usage of where it was. I took it as the entirety of the film. I think there's too much slow mo in the entirety of the film. I think there are some parts that are just cut out, don't need them. I really like the connection of the typhoon learning how to go with that with the whatever the hell Liza Keel said, like the wrinkle on your skin or something, whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but like I like that connection to then go with the fire wave that he flies through and like syncing those two up like he's now more knowledgeable of flying or better at it without help kind of thing, and I like that. The battle parts, like especially the talon on the talon scrape, I thought that was real cool. But the like looking over towards a direction kind of thing, not needed. The flying up slow mo to then dive bob down, not needed. I think it was just,
Yeah,
Zack Snyder being like, I like slow mo. Let's put it in. It looks
yeah.
cinematic.
Like the feather flying off in the very beginning when we're flying past the titles. That's in slow mo.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're watching a Zack Snyder movie. Like, yeah, I know. Yeah, okay, we're in agreement then. I think. as far as slow mo goes. It's mostly well utilized, but it is a bit too much in terms of the non combat sequence.
Yeah.
Um, I was in the speech that Metal Beak gives at night when Clud's with his sister. Pointless scene. We don't need it. There was no like, all right, we're going to war now. It's just it's there to give him something to do. That was pointless.
Uh, what part?
The part where Metal Beak is giving a speech to his soldiers. Where Clud is Clud's sister's moon.
Is she
Not
moon blinked at that
moon
point?
moon blinked after. Like it's
Yeah.
right after the speech.
This is the part where he's giving his speech, and then Eglintine's like talking to Kludd, like asking what's going on, and Kludd just watching the queen fly.
Yeah. I this is a the speech that Metal Beak gives is pointless scene. Pointless part of the scene could have been cut out.
I think I'm in agreement. Didn't hold a lot of weight at all.
Yeah, like it'd be one thing if it's like, they're about to leave on missions and stuff like that. You would taste man flesh or whatever the hell that he would say to go to, and then they would just immediately run out and go. Like it's the last speech before they go, but nothing comes of it. They're just chanting his name, and then we cut away to his sister. I'm all for inspiring the troops and all, but you got to make a point of it.
I suppose so. I didn't think of it as fluff, but I guess it is a bit fluff. It would just be less Metal Beak time, which is unfortunate because I feel like he needs more of it.
It's true. He does need more. He needs
He's
more useful things to do. This isn't useful.
Yeah, the screen time he has needs to be stronger.
Yeah, like the
Mm.
reason I made the joke about the Saruman speech from Fellowship of the Ring is that he could have sent them all on their mission. Like this is why he's giving the speech. Like it's starting tonight. Like we're going on your missions now. Going to go scout here, that here. But they all just start chanting his name, and he's like, instead of like he's sending them out on missions. Like it could have ended with him sending them out on missions or assigning particulars to the mission or anything. But it's just speech and then Clud's just then Eglantine getting moonblinked.
Yeah, eh, just weak.
Uh,
Um.
uh,
Oh, Crimson.
Sprinks.
Congratulations, I'm the host, Crimson. You made your noise first.
Yes.
Ah, God. All right. Uh, Claude's death. This is his glorious death where he killed himself. Air quotes, because turns out he didn't. Um, I wish he did, honestly, but I, I kind of liked it, and I kind of didn't like it. I didn't like how obvious he was faking asking for help. It was after his whole speech of "I hate you, want to kill you," and then
It was a
brother, please,
180.
brother, my arm's broken, brother, help me, oh, please, come on,
I,
come on.
I was annoyed
Manipulation.
with that. Yeah, I was annoyed with that, and also the fact that he didn't fucking save himself or even try to, because he could still fly.
He said his wing was broken.
Yeah, I thought
um,
Cludd's wing was snapped, which just goes into Grimble, the same thing. They're both, I guess, falling, but there's other branches for him to try to grab onto or grab the tree bark or something to
Yeah,
slow him
the
down. He just
180 was
falls.
a bit the 180 was a bit too much. I would rather him being screaming, "This is your fault. Why are you always like this? Why do you always, I would rather than be like start blaming
Oh,
Soren for all his
I
shortcomings.
would have preferred a breathing room where he then notices his demise and panics while looking at the fire, and then goes slow with an approach to ask Soren for help.
Oh, like instead of going one into it, like he's looking down and then he has like, huh, and
Yeah.
then he starts like not a, so it's not a 180. It's a more slower turn into begging for help. Yeah,
well,
that would work better pacing wise.
I'm just thinking of like Anakin yelling, "I hate you," and then like, "Please help me, please Obi-Wan, help me, I'm burning, help me." I'm just, it's
Yeah,
like that abrupt to me here.
yeah, I
So
agree. It's
breathing room would have
very
been way
abrupt.
better for the scene here, and I agree with you guys on that.
Yeah, I think either Springs. I think yours works really well with what we have already. Mine would just require like a bit of a dialogue change because him committing at this point, I think he's too far gone
Yeah.
to beg for
It
his brother's
depends.
help,
Do
which
you
is
want
why
to
I think
keep the writing or do you want to keep the 180? It's like,
exactly. Yeah, it's got to make your choice, I guess. Gotta. That's pretty much what we're discussing.
He drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
No
oh
going
boy.
back.
yeah. He's a little too far gone. I think the getting indoctrinating his sister bit without any additional work or motivation is the sign to us that he's too far gone.
And it was his idea too. It wasn't like he
Oh
was
yeah,
nudged by the
he
queen. Hey,
committed.
No.
you should moon blinker.
He
That's not something.
committed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just went, he has a plan. He has an idea for something. And it was just to be a scumbag.
I wish.
Absolute scumbag.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Um,
Um,
again, being a first timer, the scene with the hedgehog with the whole foretold thing. And he's pointing out the 5 members in the group and he goes like, you're the leader and you're the navigator and like pointing at all this stuff like very, I know who you are and everything. I thought that the roles he was pointing at were mixed. Like you're the navigator and the navigator is someone else in the group or something. But like all the roles are for the group. It
yeah.
pretty
So
much narrowed out who he said is who they are.
yeah, allow me to express to you Zack Snyder's writing as the aficionado person here who has seen far too many Zack Snyder's movies for my own mental health. This is how he does character work. He gets a character to tell you who their archetype is supposed to be or who they are. It's never in a natural way. So this is this is a pattern for a lot of his work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Sprinks, you were seeing him as like a quack, but
Well, a
turns out he
little.
was
I
just
was
accurate.
Yeah, like what he's saying is true, but he's, a little off. And I'm like, okay, so someone's here, this role, someone's here, but the one he's pointing to isn't who you think it's for, kind of thing. But then
Yeah,
at the end,
that
it's
would
like,
be
oh, I guess it was for whoever he said it was.
yeah. I can agree with that. He's unfortunate. Zack Snyder unfortunately doesn't really uh
Play
his
with
movies.
feelings. I don't know.
No, I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. His work isn't that deep usually, so it's
Oh,
very surface level all the time. But he's the kind of person that like
telling
will
Superman he
have a
can't save
character.
someone by putting a hand up.
Yeah, he's the kind of person that will have characters sit down at a table and literally out loud go, "I'm now going to tell you what my history is," instead of being anywhere near subtle. His subtlety is not his thing. So this is very much in character for Schneider about how he does his character work. So the moment he had him espouse what each character is supposed to be, I admittedly just took it as a grain of truth and looked for potentialities of it being different because I'm just used to him. I'm just used to his work in that specific way.
Gotcha.
I would have been nice though if he was a quack. I would have much preferred that.
Yeah.
It would have been funnier if it was a duck too.
Yeah, there you go.
that would have been pretty good. Um, I quite like the training montage when they get to the Guardian's tree.
Oh
Ghoul.
yes, when the blacksmith comes
I
out,
was
which is good that they answered that because I was curious how those things were being made.
yeah. I'm happy they got the blacksmith. I'm happy we got like and we at least know how the world around Gahul functions within this sequence. The how they're training the young Guardians and like how they have a specific class system. Like what do you want to specialize in? Be it navigator, smithing, scribing. I like that. Came very cross to me. Like it's I say it as if like it's a new thing, but really it's just a lot of modern movies forget that having training montages is actually good for your story and characters. Um, and I guess I just quite enjoyed that whole sequence with them learning how to fly, navigate, fight, and stuff like that, so they know the basics of what they're going into.
Yeah, my favorite movie of 2024, quote unquote, last year, had a wonderful training sequence. Wild Robot.
Was that
Uh,
Wild Robot?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
Wild Robot.
that's what
I mean,
I thought.
my pick for training sequence is Wild Robot or Dune Part Two. Don't think my Spike's Family pick had any training in it specifically.
Speaking about the training bit, did you guys get the words, the tongue-in-cheek music choice?
Yeah, I admit to being a bit annoyed by it, but I get why they chose it.
Annoyed? Oh, I thought it was clever.
I didn't get the tongue-in-cheek aspect, so what I missed?
It's Owl City, the band.
Okay, yeah, Overhead.
Um,
There was no fireflies. I
No,
wouldn't
they
have picked
didn't
it
do
though.
Fireflies. And they also did the song in Wreck-It Ralph, I think. When Can I See You Again? But yeah, I went, oh, Owl City in an Owl movie. All right, pretty cool.
Spot on.
I'm
That was
surprised.
probably intentional.
I know Soren's meant to be kind of naive and stuff like that, so I guess I have a question: Is is it too much for Soren to have made the leap that his brother's responsible for his sister's kidnapping? Because his sister, without he got her memories back, would have been able to tell him straight up that Kludd's responsible
Yes,
for what happened to her.
yes, I think so.
So
Isn't that what happened? I
no,
thought she
because
said it.
She
that's the thing, right?
eventually does.
He does, but he doesn't react to that at all. Like he would know that his brother's evil at that point. It's like he's still like clinging on to hope when they get together, but he could be like, "Why would you do that to Eglantine?" They don't really deal with that issue, which is what I don't like about it. Which is why I'm asking if Soren's still naively thinking that his brother's
I
good,
It would have been better
or
if Soren was like, the reason why he hasn't escaped or he's still there is like, he's an informant. He's gonna help us. He's understanding everything. Like he's not defending his brother. He's just
Yeah, he's
kind of
not
like,
giving excuses for his brother.
yeah.
he's not. I don't want him to defend him, but he's just not making like. I would like a reaction, like he realizes how far his brother's fallen, you know, because of what happened to Eglantine. Eglantine.
It's an interesting name.
They're all interesting
Yeah.
names.
Funny enough, Eglantine is a name I'm very familiar with because one of the characters one of my friend writers made is named Eglantine, like their family. That's their family name. So I'm actually quite familiar with the name.
Oh.
Funny enough, some writer lore, I guess, on that front. Uh, do you have anything to say, I guess, Crimson, on regarding that?
I mean, I like I said, I misheard it, I guess, because I thought it was delivered by the sister, not him piecing it together
Well, no,
for
it is
the.
delivered by a sister. My issue is just he doesn't really react to it.
Okay. I guess. I mean, he does react to it, but I guess it is subdued to what one could expect for a brother betraying a sister. So yeah, I guess it's a little underdone, a little underbaked.
Underbaked. Okay. Spriggs got a point.
Yeah. When they're at Gahul and they're being like toured around by, oh,
Otessa,
oh,
I think her name
is
is
it
Altessa.
Otessa or like
Yeah, I remember.
Otalisa or something like that?
Yeah.
And Gilfy goes, "Who are you?" I'm with Gilfy. Who the heck? Why do we need another character? I can't
Oh,
wrap my
she's a
head around
character.
who already some of these other characters are. I think she's just here because she's someone in the book.
Quite possibly. I also think she was just there to make Gilfy jealous for like 10 seconds.
Uh, I don't know if they really played that off. I mean, it probably
Maybe
is
out.
to set up a book character for further storylines that we will probably never see
I think
at this point.
the only purpose she serves in the story is to kind of give the she is the character representing Gahul's perception of Soren. Does that make sense?
I feel like the Snow Owls could tell that. I didn't get their names either. I called one of them Hedwig, but
Yeah.
The Snow
They're the
House.
same owl as Hedwig is. Yeah, no, but they're the king, right? So the people's perception of Soren. That's what I get the gist of what her character is supposed to be. Because when Alamir returns back with the Owlets, she's like, I didn't really believe you at first about all this, but now I do. Like I said, it's supposed to. My guess is it's supposed to mirror the feeling of Gahul as everyone's getting on the same page. They don't do a very good job integrating Gahulian society, but I guess I appreciate their uh, the avatar for Gahul, which I think is supposed to be her, the attitude. Like people are
I
slowly coming
can
around to believe.
see. I can see the painting you're doing here, and
Yeah,
it is weak sauce if that is indeed
yeah,
what
that,
their
I agree.
intention is.
Absolutely weak sauce, but I think that's the intention behind her character, right? With what little we have of her.
I just feel like passerbyers could accomplish just what she does.
Exactly. I think the only reason that it's not passive virus is because they just want to use the character again, so she's not a one-time usage character.
I suppose so. Or, the book people being like, oh, she's way bigger in the book. She has this whole role and she does this and that and the
Yeah,
other thing. And then the
they're
battle when
not.
she does
They're
this one thing, it's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
All the book people are telling us right now, like she's the Luna Lovegood of this
It could
franchise
be.
or something.
I don't know.
Are you going to read any of the books, Sprinks, after the
I'm
movie?
not planning on it.
No. No.
Never say never,
You
but
seem passionate about the books because you keep bringing them up.
it's based on a book. I can't adjust this to the book since I haven't read them.
Mm,
Who brought it up?
looking low.
Who brought it up earlier that Kludd isn't wearing a helmet in battle?
Writer did,
I did, but
but I
Clint
had
didn't
it
believe
written.
that there was a problem.
Okay, because when I also had it before the battle when Kludd's with like the other chosen flyers, kind of to be like join the soldier
The
team.
soldiers.
They're all wearing helmets, but him, and he's like a standout. Like the queen's like, oh, and this young pupil, especially, is yada
Oh,
yada.
they were wearing helmets in that scene.
Um, the one of them, yes, not the first one where there's only like 6 of them. They're not, and Kludd steps forward, but the one after where they're lined up. And I saw that as Kludd's not wearing a helmet just so the audience can identify which one is Kludd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I
like, I
agree.
think that's the only reason.
That is legitimately the only reason because Kludd is not only a part of this. He's not with the soldiers during the battle. He's with the Queen, Alamir, and Metal Beak. He's not where he's supposed to be or where he should be in
Yeah, but they
theory.
didn't give him a rank. He's not a captain, general, or anything. They still refer
Well,
to him as a soldier.
yeah, I wouldn't expect him to have a rank, but why would he be not fighting as a soldier? Because that's what he was trained to do. I don't know the how far along I guess he is in his training because he's just apart from the army, which is weird because he would have been a part of the army because he's not high ranking enough to be with Alamir the traitor, Metalbeak the king, and Nyla the queen.
Yeah,
Unless he is like supposed to be like the future personal bodyguard, but I don't get that anywhere in the story.
and no, neither do I. Other than the one word of she's like, and this one, please step forward. He's very good.
Yeah, like well, that's remember they were competing for that, and he'd won
Yeah,
the competition.
that's
So that to me was an exception,
and
not
that
the
gives
rule.
bodyguard status. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. It does not. I have questions about the Pure One Society. The bad guys from World War II were a bit more organized, so I need to learn my
Ooh,
logistics here.
Alamir, the traitor. When would he have told them about the setup for the trap thing? Because he was in Gahul and it's like, the kids are making it up. They don't know what they're talking about. And the king's like, you and the men go scout it out, find out what's going on. Uh, but the scouting mission was the decoy mission. So how did he send a message to set up the dummies and stuff?
My
oh, I
best
see.
faith, my best faith interpretation, and I will admit this is entirely headcanon, and I am inferring a lot beyond the writers right here, but we do that a lot in the podcast anyway. Is that Alamir uh was simply waiting for word to eventually get back from the Guardians. He just banked on somebody eventually knowing that. So they had worked out this plan in advance with he'd worked out this plan in advance with Metal Beak that when he is going to be sent on a scouting mission, because eventually he would, because he is their premier warrior slash scout, he would set up. They would have simply have this trap ready to go.
I'm with that. Yes, I think it's
That is the best faith interpretation.
prior meeting knowledge between Metalbeak and Alamir already made, and we just don't see it because we're following the perspective of Soren upon
Yeah, like
meeting the
the only
character.
we know that they meet earlier in the film. We have a scene between him and Metalbeak. They're talking about him being king and under the tree or stuff like that.
Yeah, and then he gets
Uh,
bat attacked.
my best faith interpretation is that they had talked about this as a fallback plan during that meeting or a meeting like it. Because eventually word was going to reach the Guardians of Gahul. They just didn't know when. That is best I can get. That is best understanding I've got for you, Crimson. It's flimsy and it's got holes.
And it's gonna sink,
Oh yeah.
but it'll float.
Oh, nice, nice metaphor.
So please feel free to sink it.
Boats. No, it's all right. It's just a lot of inferring to fix what wasn't clearly stated.
Yeah. And like I said, I think I mentioned this before on the podcast. There's a reasonable degree of inference you can make with films, but when you're making leaps and bounds of logic like this, I think it's a sign of you're inferring too much on behalf of the writers.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
Springs got a point.
I have a question for you, writer. Being a writing question, the
Oh boy.
writing method used that Eliza Keel like writes his things and then stamps. The usage of it is very um um like Chinese almost, like the writing style of it. I'm just curious, like how do you interpret the use of that in this world, or the reason of choice behind that?
Like Liza Keel turning from warrior to scribe.
No, no, no. Like the writing itself on the page. How come it's not like, left to right American writing? Like, why is it the way it is? Like, what's the method behind that chosen for it?
Oh, I assume
Because
that
they
it's
don't
just
even
to
write it
build
that
into
way in Australia.
yeah, my assumption is just to build into the fantasy aspect of the film to kind of show that we're not really seeing it in like there's we hear English, but they're really speaking Owlish. They're speaking in their own
Oh,
fantasy language.
okay. So it's just to look more fantasy, just more foreign to the American eye
That would
or
be
audience.
that would be my guess. Yes,
Okay.
because the stamps is just the way to mark the page. Because if you ever purchase a book, like you have sometimes a marking in the corner, or you have like
Yeah. Yeah.
specific symbols drawn under chapter. Like when you are announcing a new chapter, sometimes it's very flowery, or it's got some other symbols to go with that. That's what I took the stamp itself as.
Oh, okay. I took the stamp as a signature.
Yeah, yeah, it's either his signature or a personal mark to go with each chapter finishing.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you then. But the writing sense of how it's being written is just to
Yeah,
look different.
yeah, that would be my guess because they don't really play with that concept more. Like we don't see that on the tree in the Owlet's rooms at the very beginning. We see kind of like figure drawings marking out the story.
Okay. Unless Crimson, you
Uh,
have another interpretation on what you saw of it.
No, no, I don't. Kind of just I didn't put much thought into it. It's just thought as their own writing. I didn't take the Australian angle of the direction or anything like that.
Okay.
I have a little bit of an issue with how Soren temporarily overpowers Metal Beak in the fight.
Got a
Eventually,
second wind.
yeah, I know. Eventually I'm okay with Metal Beak killing himself by staking himself. That makes sense to me. He's overconfident, what have you. Take your pick. It's been done before. I guess my issue is just that like Soren was able to suddenly overpower Metal Beak to escape. Because that was for me that scene was very much built. Oh, your mentor's gonna die in front of you. Here we go.
Was Metal Beak
Mhm.
very focused on Soren, or did he turn to look towards Liza Keel to like, like I'm taking out your mentor, like
He turned.
Yeah,
okay, and
it had a
Soren
very
acted
much
in that.
yeah,
So I guess
uh,
just a distracted approach worked. Looked for his opening.
yeah. I think there could have, yeah, and they needed to do it a little bit better in order to kind of get him free. But I understand what they're trying to do. Just needed to be cleaned up, you know. Crimson, you said you were running low. How many you got?
Um, none.
Oh wow,
All
he's fresh
right,
out, dude.
Sprinks, go.
Let's see. We talked about the Cludd thing, like dropping, like asking his brother. I think it definitely say something else, or actually don't backstab your brother. Don't go with your other talent to like attack. Actually save yourself. Because I'm like, if you want to really get at your brother and you're in this state right now where you see your dumb eyes right in front of you, why don't you get help, heal, and then backstab later?
Get some help.
And think about what you've done. Or don't, because you're very delighted to be a member of the villains, the pure ones.
I just went, oh,
Uh,
that's kind of dumb.
Well, a
Because
lot
he
of
knows he
villains
can't
aren't
fly
smart.
away.
uh,
And it's a burning down forest. He can't just like, get down to forest level and walk away.
Well, I think he just wanted to take his brother with him because he didn't think he was making it out.
I guess so.
That's
that,
why
But
he
then
went for the last grab. Yeah.
I think
yeah.
also just asking for, Soren, give me your other claw. I can't pull myself up. To like have Soren reach with both. But
Help me.
Yeah. Man, I would have loved to have heard the parents' reactions to what happened with Cludd if
yeah,
there
that
were
would have been
characters
great.
beyond the opening scene.
But again, they don't really care about their kids. So
And I have a he said they're just not characters enough, and that bothers the shit out of me. um, to kind of go with the you brought it up with the whole them like being fulfilling each part of the archetypes that the hedgehog ascribes to them. I'm I agree they do that at like the most base value, but I genuinely don't think there was any legwork, like proper legwork done for
no,
them to earn those particular archetypes.
no, I don't know what
Outside of
Gylfi did to be the
Soren's.
navigator after that point.
Yeah, I would have been like, man, it would have been really nice to see like Gylfi navigate by the stars because that's what she said she could do.
That would have been cool. And you may have just poked the fans who are like, "That's what we've been screaming about for years." Who
Maybe
knows?
we're giving all the
We
book
are poking
fans
and
like
prodding all over the place.
yeah, maybe all the book fans are cheering us on because it's such a bad adaptation potentially, but we don't know. um,
I don't like the
uh,
line because it also goes into it. I don't like the line when Noctis gets Eglantine and Soren at the tree, and it's like, "Oh yeah, we're all safe." And Soren's like talking to He says something, and Noctis goes, "You made them real, like the stories." That's so stupid.
as again,
That's
if
not at
that
all
were
how this
true,
worked.
yeah, exactly. If that were true, that's a line that needed to be earned. Like, what if, like, see, that line would work better if there were guardians, but there are no guardians anymore. So he decided to make them. You
Yeah.
know, like rebuild the legend. Then that line would be have so much more impact, and it would be a completely different movie.
Or if
um,
Soren had a silver tongue and it was like Inkheart, completely different. Yeah.
uh,
Silver tongue.
I will jump to the owl meeting. I quite like, I guess, the owls debating back and forth after hearing the story. Like it shows that I guess they have a semblance of a society within Gahul, which I like. Even though the world building is questionable everywhere else, I like that as a grounding mechanism here.
Okay. Yeah.
Like they're not just willing to buy the story of strangers; they're willing to verify it and still give them shelter and stuff like that. It implies a chain of command. It implies, you know, they're a civilization of a sort.
Hmm.
Um, Springs got another point.
Oh boy. Looking at my notes. Not really, no. Um, I don't know if I skipped over. Well, you talked about, yeah, I guess just another thing. You brought up Hugo Weaving, and great actor and voice talent. I was blown away not knowing anything about the movie going in. Sam Neill as Alomir. I went, oh, interesting. And then Jeffrey Rush as Liza Keel.
Yeah.
Oh, what a cast!
Uh, Truly. Like I said, this movie has an A grade cast. I just wish the writing was a bit better. They gotta tighten it up.
Now, a follow up onto
Uh,
that. Crimson, do you know who all three of those actors are?
Recognize the names.
Okay.
Can't tie them all
You
to
have
faces.
Red Skull. You have Alan
I know who
Grant,
that one was. The blue one.
and you have Hector Barbosa.
Okay. All right. Now I got faces.
what did you were saying something, Strings?
Was I? I was just talking about like I was surprised that these other actors are in the movie, like recognizable, and I'm like, oh, interesting cast.
Do you think they
Uh,
just take owlings from the ground or take them from homes?
Good point. I think they got to be from Holmes. Otherwise, that would say Eglantine was on ground floor.
well,
That
that's a
make
special case because Kludd specifically was the one making a request. That could be a special
yeah.
case because with the way they introduced the rest of the owlets, it implies that they were all thrown from the nests or they all had fallen from the nest and they were therefore rejected. It's kind of the
Yeah, just
implication.
they were in a wooded area and they got spotted by these guys. It's just kind of convenient.
Yeah, that they were in the area and got saved. Yeah, I am trying to. I had a point and it's gone. Damn.
That
I
stinks.
ripped it away from you. I love doing that. That's what
Yes,
I
you did.
do.
It's okay. Um,
I said
Spruce, when are you
now
gonna
I'll
go?
go with my last thing, which I said I'll save to the end, but I have a pitch to
You've
go with this.
mentioned pitched
I
several
did.
times.
I think this would have worked far better if it was a TV show, like immensely better.
Like
Uh,
how long of a show?
Like I don't know, like maybe like Arcane, like a episode per book kind of thing.
Interesting.
Because it just
I would,
feels like the pace of this movie is so
yeah,
compiled and it needs breathing room.
I would probably do 3 episodes per book, just because with how with what this movie is, I think 10 episodes per book would be too much.
I guess you're
Because this
right.
is the
If they
first three
compiled all
books.
three in an hour and a half, I guess you're right. That would be a lot of filler need to be cut. But
They could turn it into Tac Tac and Power Juju, where they come into hijinks on their adventures to Gahul. There you go.
interesting connection with Tack and the Power Juju.
In the Power Juju.
Um,
But yeah, I just think this would
I
work very better, much better as a show. Definitely flesh out more understanding of the world and the realm, so it's not, a. I mean, I don't know if they're strapped on time for this movie, being like an hour and a half, and they're like, "Oh,
They might have had a mandate.
kids wouldn't sit
Yeah,
through an over 2 hour movie kind of thing," and they were
yeah.
hoping to get more. But then it's like maybe give a cliffhanger kind of ending or something, because then the fans of the books know where it's going, but people who haven't don't, and it's like, oh, incentivize more people to want more.
It might have come across as like maybe the biggest battle happened in the third book, and that's what would serve as the best climax, I guess, to the story. Sometimes it happens because one of my favorite book series, they have a climactic
Oh,
battle about every other book. So like you can pair the books together. Like the first 2 books build up to a specific battle, then the second 2 books build up to a battle in the fourth book.
this is an interesting comparison difference between this and The Hobbit, where one is 3 books in one movie, and that's 1 book in 3 movies.
Yeah, and plus appendices. Um, but yeah, I get what you mean.
I just, again, haven't read the books. I don't know how much is cut out, how much is overlooked, what's different, what's been altered.
Um, Fair enough, I guess. I let's see. I would like to, I guess, jump to um, my last point. I guess it has more specifically to do with Kludd's training. I quite like how this is going to contrast with the Guardians training later on. This is obviously a lot more competitive and a lot more like brutish in terms of how they're getting their soldier training compared to the Guardians more like gentle
Competitive
training,
versus
I guess.
cooperative.
Yeah, it's those specific nuances, I guess, that I actually did quite enjoy as terms of uh, differentiating the two worlds.
Yeah, I do like that. One's a more aggressive approach and one's more um, friendly. Though it would have been, they really focus on Soren's perspective, like in the battle too. I wish there was more of like how Digger fought and how Twilight held people off. How like even Gylfie, how Gylfie fought people being her size. Like how
Hmm.
they maybe use the environment or different move sets or something in the fight, rather than everyone just resulting to metal talons.
Yeah, I think like they do a good job of at least demonstrating in the small bits of slow mo how much more skilled the Guardians are uh, at fighting, um, which I think helps. Like there's a scene where you can see like them tag teaming off of each other and them using like their enemies to their advantage. Like they're clearly far more trained and well skilled, but it would be nice to see them do some more dynamic teamwork stuff
Yeah,
I wish they had
even
like
combo moves.
chest armor or something.
beyond the helmets. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
It would be cool if they had.
Uh,
Well, maybe it's just to show that they're not getting attacked in the chest, which is kind of
Yeah.
dumb.
I mean, it'd be cool with, I guess, dynamic weapons is like uh, a horned helmet for like charging or something. So it's not just
Oh,
attacking with claws, but headbutting or something.
or
Yeah, and
even
like Goliath Keys has like tipped wings.
Yeah.
if there's like a foreshadow presence at the beginning, because what was it, Soren and Gylfie are playing as Lord Liza Keel and Metal Beak, and then uh Eglantine bumps into Soren and is like, "Oh, you broke my beak." It would be cool if that was a foreshadowing to Metal Beak actually using his beak as a weapon.
You broke my beak sounded like you made me ink. The way you
Yeah,
said it.
kind of.
You broke my beak, made me
That's
ink.
fun.
Uh, but yeah, using a beak as a weapon because we didn't get really too much of that either. Using beaks because they were all kind of behind a mask
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
combat.
It's also interesting
Uh,
that the queen doesn't have metal talons in her fight.
yeah. The reason, by the way, that the owls aren't using their beaks in their fight is because normal owls have undersized beaks. Most owls have undersized beaks, so typically they use their talons. That is their typical main source of weapon.
True, but when your namesake is your own that's made out of metal, I feel like it
Yeah,
should have been used.
I would have liked to seen him do something with that. Maybe, yeah. The metal beak would be the exception because of his
Name.
previous beak getting
Yeah,
ripped off or something like that.
because of his metal beak.
Yep. I am now officially out of main points. So, how are you doing, Springs?
You know what, bud? I'm pretty much empty. Just a lot of like questions, I guess, and the pace. Um, it, it's weird. We called this movie loose. I don't know if that's the right word. What was the movie before we covered that we called loose?
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. This is different than that.
This feels worse to me.
Yeah, loose isn't the right word.
I feel like there are a lot of holes here, in the form of unanswered questions and
I
things of
guess
that
so, but it's not as holy or as like the Lost World. That was like chunks taken out of story. This is, I guess, in that comparison, it's more in that vein than it is of being loose. I don't know. It just feels like there's so much they want to get across, but they're limited on what they can do or something. Like,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the the themes they introduced are dropped or not played with, or character motivations aren't fully 100% clear. Some characters are just omitted completely. There's a lot going into this that can be like, I guess, that are evidence of the fact of how like loose it all is.
Yeah. I don't know, Crimson. Do you think this movie is more loose or more holy?
I'm leaning more towards the loose angle than holy. Like I admit they are close between each other there.
Okay.
Um, Fair enough. Uh, I guess if we're out of main stuff, unless you have any pressing questions you need to hear from us, Springs, we can go into
Pressing
summary and
questions.
ratings.
Pressing questions. I don't think I have any. I don't know. All the stuff we
Okay.
brought up after the fact that you said you were out Crimson of points. Does anything bring up anything you need to touch more on?
Um, I guess a compliment, even though we kind of used it as a negative as well, was the characters are distinguishable. Because I'm well, 101 Dalmatians was brought up. A lot of the puppies in that are kind of not noticeable unless you're looking at like collars or one's got like some dirt on it. This they use different species to make them more distinguishable, or if they are the same species, I think they do a good job. Um, like
Well, his like, little
cool,
spike kind of on his head.
he's got the mohawk thing and
Just kind
some
of got the
like
mark on his eye.
marks. Yeah. I don't know. I think they did a good job distinguishing the owls to where you can. There was only one time where I got confused, and that was with the singing one, whose name I'm forgetting.
Twilight.
Um,
Twilight.
Twilight.
I
Funny.
don't know how you could forget that.
Forgot. I don't know. I don't think I've said his name in the whole podcast.
That's wild.
Uh,
He might have the easiest name out of any of them.
yeah, Twilight. I got him mixed up with Alamir in the council room with the king
Oh, yeah.
when he's like, "Don't trust the kids. There's not enough." I'm like, "What a backstabber! Well, you were with these kids the whole time." And then I'm like, "Oh, it's a different guy." Um, that they were just similar to me in that moment, but overall, other than that, everything else was quite distinguishable enough to identify.
Fair enough. I guess my last question is: are there any removable characters?
One, I think.
The- Was it that girl one
Yeah,
from? Yeah,
Owl Lisa or whatever. And
Yeah.
let us know. Removed from the movie here. I don't know if she needs to be
we're
removed from the
covering the
books.
movie. We don't have to say the books.
I'm just saying. Some people will be like, absolutely not. Blah blah blah. For the movie.
Um, I'm inclined to agree. She doesn't push the plot in any particular direction. She doesn't cause our characters to grow in any direction.
And
She's
what she
just
says, Gylfi and
a
Soren can just
figurehead for the
ask a stranger.
population.
Like I said, I
Uh,
have the I gave my best faith interpretation of what that character is within this film, and I don't think it's enough to justify her place.
No,
I am in full agreement. I think she's removable. My more controversial take is I think Digger is removable as well.
I don't know about that.
I
With the
feel
only
like
scene you
he's
have to change is the first
has to be
interaction.
there with Twilight. Like that,
They're the dynamic. I know. I feel like that's my more controversial one. I'm not going to try and push back on that one because I agree.
because I think without Digger, Twilight is far less of a character. So I would keep him in.
Mhm. All right. So yeah, got a removable character, I guess, out of this.
It's been a while.
Hey,
Another one for the list.
yeah,
Because Chief for me is a we removed Yvonne right from
Shaun of the
Shaun
Dead.
of the Dead.
Yeah,
Yeah, that this falls into that category for me.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Um,
I think she was our first removed character.
yes.
Yvonne started the whole
Yeah.
trend.
The
Yeah,
craziest
I
one
base I
is the scientists from
Science and the
Seventh Inning
Raccoon.
Fetch. That's wild.
it,
We
It's
it
can
was
very
remove
it
the
was
bad
valid, but
guys.
yeah.
it's really it's true that's if that's behind the reasoning though. This one feels easier despite them being a character. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that we didn't have any arguments on that one. That was a clean surgical removal.
Uh, all right. I guess with that, gentlemen, we can go into summaries and ratings. How
Whoopee!
exciting! We're gonna start with Crimson.
Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. So I went into this not expecting to enjoy it purely based off the trailer and what I could remember as a child. And I came out of it, eh. I didn't hate it. I didn't heavily dislike it. I didn't like it. So that puts me in the 4.5 ish range for me. So I'm putting it 4.5.
Subjectively.
Did I not say subjective? I thought I did.
Uh,
Maybe I didn't.
You did not.
Oh, subjective. Thanks for
We could
calling me out
infer
on it.
based on what you said,
Yeah.
but you
No, that's right.
wanted to.
I thought I did. I jumped ahead in my brain. Subjectively, 4.5. Uh, the main character, Soren, found annoying in some parts, but not enough to ruin him as a main character for me. There was some good comedic moments, uh, so there was some enjoyment level with that. I do think the fight scenes were cool. I enjoyed the slow mo for most of it. The flying through the typhoon was a nice visual, minus his face because I can't stand Soren's face. Just not the worst thing ever. Certainly not the best thing ever. Objectively, my score has gone down on the coverage here because I didn't see too many issues in this. I was kind of thinking I was going to have a high score here. That is no longer the fact. I went down 2 points.
2 whole points.
I was going to
Jeez.
give this an 8. This is at a 6 now.
Whoa, that's hefty.
I just didn't see a lot of the issues that were brought up here. uh, Pacing being one, I didn't find too much issue with pace, but that was brought up on travel and stuff like that. And um, oh my gosh, I just went blank on pacing now. Whatever, we'll jump. The characters, although they are consistent with themselves, doesn't necessarily make them great.
Deep.
Yeah, like Metal Beak, very cookie cutter villain. Uh, the f- Most of his scenes are kind of irrelevant. If he just showed up at the end as like he's on a throne or whatever it would be for an owl, and then the big reveal of Metalbeak, I feel like that would maybe potentially be better than just the breadcrumbs of him talking and giving speeches. That's how little his presence in this is. That his mere name is probably stronger than what we see depicted in his presence, which is sad because I think he is cool visually. I like his voice, but the way they utilize him is nothing. Um, the Queen character has way more as a villain. Um, blah blah blah. What's his name? I don't know why it's so hard for me to
Blah blah
remember
blah.
his name.
Couldn't tell you.
Cludd.
Clud,
Cludd.
Flutterflon.
Flutafon. Cludd. As I said in the beginning, I see they set the breadcrumbs, but they did not have enough to justify his turn to like sacrifice his sister, brainwash her, enslave her for his new his new family, his new home. They didn't do enough for that, and we discussed how much of his motivation is this new found home and how much of it's driven by his hate towards his brother, and I don't think the movie did enough to settle which one is a higher priority or what. It's just I think it's too interpretive for a character that goes under such a change. In terms of the parents, I didn't have as much passion regarding it as Sprinks. I do agree that with both of you that they were underutilized, but their presence in there now, I don't have issue with what they did with what they're there. I would prefer more, but objectively, I think they're serviceable here. Um, the Reaching the Guardians was actually I didn't really talk about that. I thought Reaching the Guardians was too easy as well
They were halfway
because
there, and then they were just there.
yeah, if you're exhausted and about to plop out of the sky and die, you're halfway there. We never see them get to the exhaustion point except for Digger, and that but they were already essentially there.
Was that exhaustion
uh,
for Digger, or were his wings
he
freezing?
froze.
Yeah.
He froze. So they didn't even get to the threat of getting to Gahul, the threat of exhaustion that never happened. And they're still new flyers at this point. So I felt like that
And they've
was
been flying
poorly
all
done.
day long.
Yeah, not great. And then the Gahul fading into legend, even though it's within an individual's lifetime. Eh. There would need to be some explanation to why that has been forgotten. Because the Narnia example I gave, that got forgotten because Narnia time goes by quicker, so it's like hundreds of years went by or whatever in Narnia. This, a single lifetime, kind of hard to forget a war. Uh, the fantasy element of it being word of mouth gives a little leeway, but not enough. I'm getting to the rambles. The CGI stuff, I think is adequate for the time, 2009. Some even just stand out as being good. The typhoon looks good. The details of the close-ups in the slow-mo during combat is good. It feels meaty, feels like there's power behind the strikes, which can be sometimes hard to convey in slow motion, is just the power because it's slowed down, but I think they did a good job.
If anyone's an expert at that, that would be Zack Snyder.
And the music just fit. I didn't think it was anything good. I didn't think it was anything bad. It was just there. So 6 is where it's at for me.
All right. Springs, why don't you go next?
Alrighty. Let's see. Where do I start? I'll start with my objective. Um, I think the writing of this is decent. I think the characters are decent. I think the animation's really good. I think the lighting's very good. I think the cinematography is very cinematic, especially in uses of slow mo of the shots of where they held the camera. I think are decent. Again, animation a little harder to tell. Um, let's see here. I always forget stuff. There's no costume designing. There's no set design really. I
It's
guess
character design now.
yeah, character design. The owls are Crimson touched on it. They're made enough to distinguish them apart. I think that's good, even though some of them are of the same species of owls, and I think that's very well done. Um, I think the voice acting is decently done and nice. I think the names are really the fable-ish part of it, of um, just kind of fantasy, though it's Australia, but I never got that whatsoever. I don't know how many people would watch this movie and be like, "Oh man, that's Australia." I don't know any landmarks in here that are like identified. That's where this is. Um,
I just have to reiterate that that is a fact I found on the internet, and I don't believe it. I just read it because I found it.
take what I just said with a grain of salt. I don't know. Yeah. Overall, in that it's decent. It definitely could be better, and it definitely could be worse. So I have it as just like a 7. Um, oh, what was that?
No, waiting on your subjective. Sorry.
Okay. I heard a little pop. My subjective. This film, I pitched it as a show because I think the show approach would go much better with what they're trying to convey. This film doesn't have any like breathing room. The one breathing room scene I can think of is when they're napping and Twilight's doing the singing a song on the tree. That's about it. And even that's really quick. And being how quick these scenes are, and they're not really strong to a character motivation with like Kludd or Metal Beak or Alamir until a point, and Grimble and like all these things, it didn't give me a lot to solidify of a character or the story in a part, and it was going kind of rushed that it got a little to the point where I couldn't really get to the point of I don't need to relate to a character, but to the point of like understanding fully where a connection of motives are, that there are some parts of this movie that did one of the ultimate sins of an entertainment film, and it bored me. And part like I didn't just it's not that I didn't get it, I just couldn't fully understand the connections of things like the soul magnet. I'm like, okay, what's that for? And they never really explain what it's for. They just use it as like a trap. But its creation and everything, it's like, could that go in more detail? And they're like, oh, the little metal things in the pellets, that's the detail. And you're following the perspective of Soren, but then it cuts to Kludd, but Kludd's perspective is sometimes Metal Beaks, and sometimes it's Egotine's, and then when it's like Egotine's explanation to things, he's focused on the Queen, but there's no real connection to him and the Queen. It's just him not caring, and like all these things. Like I'm getting it, but it's not. I guess the pacing is an issue. And I guess that goes to my 7. It's still a 7 for my objective, but like the pacing of it is not great. But they're really compiling all that they can, I think, into this. Um, so unfortunately, because of the parts that bored me and I just couldn't get with it at parts, I have it at 3.5, which sounds bad. Like I feel like this film does not deserve a 3.5, but the story it had, like the beginning to end, is just messy-ish.
All right. Be interesting. Well, it's more that rating is more interesting than mine, so now I feel bad for going last. Um, I'll start with my subjective. Having seen this film before, I was really worried I was going to come in and hate it. I didn't hate it, didn't love it, and I tend towards also not liking it. And I'm at a 4.5 subjectively to match Crimson's. It's the lower end of my average. I don't think there's anything horrendously wrong with it. I don't think I was bored at any point, but I just, I wasn't super invested in what was going on because of all they weren't taking enough time to invest me in what was happening, what the story was on. They weren't making things clear enough for me to want to invest myself in the story and stuff like that. Objectively, um, I'm at middle ground. I'm at a 5.5. I think the most awful thing about this was probably the world building because we went over a lot of questions over how the world functions. How does the moon blinking function? Moon blinking. Is it moon blink?
Yeah, moon blinking.
Okay, yeah, moon blinking functions. How different societies of owl function? How does the rest of the world interact? The how did the parents interact? Because that would have been another way to see the world. The world building is just unfulfilled. It feels very, very small for something with a seemingly grand tale. Um, which is, I guess, a sign in the pacing, which I could tie into the plot. The plot's pretty by the numbers. There are two different factions of owls. One's fallen into legend somehow, and they are going to need to be brought in to help battle the pure ones, which is essentially the allegory of villains for World War II. Um, and then they have the MacGuffin being the Fleck weapon to the Soul Magnet or whatever to trap the Guardians, and they both got ongoing plans with that. So the plot is easy to follow, but is plagued by pacing issues, world building issues, and character issues with characters lingering too long in one place when they need to be running or things of that nature. Um, Characters are pretty mid across the board. The I would like to call Kludd a good character. I think he's by far and away the most interesting character they're playing with him in the Lies of Keel. I think they're the two most interesting characters we have here on the surface level, but they both have their own problems because they're not fully fleshed out, which is where the questions of motivation come in. Yeah, so I'm at an objective 5.5. This is not a great movie, uh, but it's not a terrible movie. Um, so pretty mid film, I guess, overall. And I guess with that, gentlemen, are there any final thoughts before I read us out?
I'm
We're halfway there.
I don't
Halfway
yeah.
there.
I don't know. I guess I feel a little disappointed. I guess I had my expectations for this movie a little higher.
Um,
Oh,
I guess going
I
more
guess
into
at a
that,
three and
why
a half. I
any
guess.
reason why you had higher expectations or just
I remember this being talked about a bit, and then just like constant trailers of things I've seen about it, or like at the time, and it still gets brought up here and there. It's not a forgotten movie, so I just thought it would be like, I don't know, just
I
higher.
think I think a lot of that for people I think is the visuals. It was very unique in terms of its visual style because there's not very many movies before this that incorporated like slow motion into its action sequences and stuff like that. I think a lot of that is what gives this film its more prolonged identity.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the slow mo rain being everywhere as well.
I just thought I would have liked it
Sure,
more.
I feel.
That's fair.
But hey, now I
Uh,
know. Now I've seen it.
now you know. Now you've seen it. Well, audience, thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Podcast, and Samsung. And if you're watching our visual side of things on YouTube or Rumble, seeing our PNG Tuber slideshow, thank you for watching there. And feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a geeky writer,
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.